decade since, it's grown into a truly remarkable institution with over 200 radio affiliates, tens of millions of unique website visitors monthly, and a 24/7 live news TV channel broadcasting from state-of-the-art studios in Austin, Texas. InfoWars has become the most trusted independent news source in the country, dedicated to delivering breaking news, live coverage of special events, and exclusive reports you won't find anywhere else. While the old guard media struggles to maintain supremacy in a landscape rocked by innovation and technology, InfoWars has been at the forefront of the information revolution. From 8 million radio listeners, over 2 million YouTube subscribers, or the billions of views of our online content, InfoWars proves dominant in every facet of media we enter. For the hardest-hitting reports, uncompromising analysis, for high-profile interviews and bombshell revelations, accept no substitutes. Demand truth. Demand InfoWars. InfoWars. Tomorrow's news today.
Ladies and gentlemen, it can officially be announced. President Trump and the return of the Republic is turning the tide, and now you can officially say is defeating the Clinton-Obama globalist moles inside the DOJ and other sectors of the government. We have a critical live feed on the front page of Infowars.com that I'm asking all listeners to tweet and Facebook and email to everyone you know so that folks who are not aware of the show, who are not aware of what's happening, will get this vital information. The live Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube feeds of the show, as well as our feed, are posted in the article. Be sure and hit refresh. And David Knight's earlier coverage that was live, is now archived, is also there. Watch live, Trump winning war against Obama Clinton infiltrators inside DOJ. Deep state panics as Trump prepares to drain the swamp. He had to turn the economy back on, had to get some key judges in, had to try to secure the border, moving towards a peace deal with North Korea, and then now he can move against the swamp in the middle of year 2 as he pledged to do. He said, give me a year, maybe 2. I think you'll be impressed. And that's exactly what he's done. Now, that said, we have got a lot of other really, really serious news we're going to be breaking down today that ties into that. We have identified another mole inside of the White House, not just inside the campaign, not just inside the president-elect's operation. Neil, there is just so much to get to today that it makes my head spin, and we're going to be presenting that information coming up. But we also have other individuals who worked on the campaign, like Caputo, Michael Caputo, also saying that there were other moles, but that he is not allowed to get into it because of his lawyers. But we separately are going to name a mole that we know was feeding information to the media and to the Clintons and to George Soros. So that is coming up, ladies and gentlemen, in the second segment of the broadcast when we come back after this quick break. Also, China is becoming very belligerent in the South China Sea. Now they say they're going to begin patrolling Taiwanese airspace. That means Chinese fighter jets are going to be flying over the military of Taiwan and their defense forces, basically in a prelude to physically taking it over. This is unbelievable. They've also said they may physically take the Philippines. It's World War II in the Pacific all over again. That's coming up. Then I have an insane stack just today of the tens of millions of Islamic invaders, 80+% military-age men, involved in industrial sex slavery, raping, murder, torture, and the governments are actually saying in court rulings they're allowed to do it, and it gets even more insane. They're telling women in Europe, don't go out at night, don't wear short skirts. This is unbelievable. We're going to cover it all today. Also, China celebrates Their new social credit system, that's the mark of the beast, blocking people from over 11 million flights. Starts out with a few hundred, now it's millions of people being blocked from travel. China makes first use of law banning defamation of heroes and martyrs. And that ties into this news. London hospitals to replace doctors and nurses with AI. It's already been done at the VA. The Thomas Watson system, named after the top eugenicist who advised Hitler on every step of his operations and who had IBM technicians in World War II immune even after the war. Now they are going to be in full control of your health care. Watson will run your life.
We now take you live to the Central Texas Command Center and the heart of the resistance. It's Alex Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back live broadcasting worldwide. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to be here for the next 4 hours live in the War Room with Owen Schroyer and Roger Stone is coming up. We are in the thick of the battle against the globalists right now. Michael Caputo, a former Trump campaign member who's been targeted by Mueller, says that he's aware of other moles inside the campaign. Well, we're aware and have outed previously moles inside the White House and got the information directly to the president, and he removed them. So we're going to reveal a major mole here right now. But first, I want to play a clip of Michael Caputo. Says another informant, as they're called. First, we're never spying on you. We're monitoring your digital transmissions, not wiretapping. That's an old term. So technically, we're not wiretapping. We're just intercepting everything you do illegally. We always said we didn't have moles inside the campaign. We had informants for your own safety, run by Hillary Clinton and run by Strzok and run by McCabe and run by Mueller and all the rest of these people who've all testified before Congress. There was no surveillance, and now they've been caught lying. This is so sensational, ladies and gentlemen. It's so incredible that we are at this point, and the media is desperately trying to cover it up, desperately trying to not give it any coverage, because they've all told you on late night comedy and on all the fake dinosaur media and all the fake news that there is no spying on the campaign, because it dwarfs Watergate by magnitudes. It's in its own class of industrial level behavior. Operation Crossfire Hurricane. Operation Crossfire Hurricane. Now, the precious New York Times broke that last Friday. They did not break it last Friday. We broke it last year. We broke it this year. We broke it on Sunday, saying Stefan Halperin. We specifically fingered him. We pointed the whole thing out. And I only point that out because they're trying to shut us down, because they know time and time again, we're patient zero. They see freedom as a disease. They see liberty and free market and wealth and religious freedom and family freedom and true classical liberalism as a threat. And so they are doing everything they can to destroy InfoWars and then all the rest of the free independent media. So here is a breakdown of this by Michael Caputo, and then I'm going to give you another mole, even more powerful, even more dangerous, even more out of control. Here is that clip.
Michael, so you see a pattern here? Former Obama administration officials justifying spying on, surveilling, whatever you want to call it, putting a mole in on an opposing campaign and a hotly contested election year. Final thoughts.
I'll tell you. You've spent time in Russia. Carter and I both have. In Russia.
We're back live again, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Alex Jones Show. You just heard Michael Caputo break that down. I was thinking about this morning, and it gave me a headache because there are so many known FBI, Democratic Party, George Soros Foundation, Defense Intelligence, CIA, globalist operatives who were openly surveilling Trump when he was a candidate, when he was the nominee, when he was the president-elect, and even once he was president. Clapper, Brennan, Rice, Powers, Obama, they're all on record to the Atlantic Monthly and the New Yorker magazine and the New York Times and all the establishment publications after Trump won, started on November 9th. I read the news every day. I look at hundreds of news articles. I look at hundreds of video clips. And I saw them going, don't worry, the intelligence community's got 7 ways to Sunday to bring him down and get back at him. And don't worry, we had him surveilled. We had him wiretapped. We had him watched. We had electronic intercepts. And boy, let me tell you, he is in bed with the Russians and he's going down. So government, hold on. Don't do what Trump says. He'll be out before he's inaugurated in a couple months. This is November 2016. He's gone. And so they deployed all the late night comedy and they deployed all the fake news to say Trump is not even going to get inaugurated. Remember that? And then they said, electors, don't on January 7th go into Congress and give your votes to him in the Electoral College. Remember that? And they had Nancy Pelosi's daughter on Fox News going, we're not going to let him be seated. And then she went, but Alex Jones threatened me, and he needs to be shut down. Never said a word about her. I said they're traitors, they're enemies trying to overthrow our country. And then I learned later from the Justice Department, patriots in there, that they had meetings with Pelosi and others demanding my arrest. And then a month later, they were having congressional hearings saying Alex Jones is a Russian and we want him arrested. And I'm up here watching all this happen, all because I'm going, hey, they tried to steal the nomination. They did steal it from Bernie Sanders. On record. They're trying to not seat his electors. They're trying to block the Electoral College and have the people that are supposed to deliver the votes say that they represent the voters and that they're not going to follow the popular vote. Remember all that? Do we have amnesia? I'm making a film on this. This is so important. Zach had a great idea. So they were all over the news saying, he's a Russian. He will not get put into office. And then I was there on January 20th when they wouldn't let people in to the inauguration. And I was there where there was the front page of the New York Times saying, we have wiretaps of Trump Tower. We know he's a Russian. And I go, look, they admit they're spying on him. They go, you're crazy. We're not spying. Because it was illegal. So they wanted to say, we're spying. Don't worry. He's a Russian. Hold on, government. Don't do what he says. But out of the other side of their mouth, they were saying, oh, we're not doing it. So when we come back, I'm going to reveal the biggest mole confirmed inside the White House with all these fake leaks, because they use the fact that they're inside to mix truth with lies and disinfo. Now, we're going to go to break. We're going to come back and go over all of this, ladies and gentlemen. But my source on them spying on Trump is Barack Hussein Obama. My source is Hillary Clinton. They were quoted in the New York Times on January 7th and 8th. Saying so that the electors from the Electoral College would read it and go, okay, the president says, it said, Obama is quoted by the New York Times as telling this reporter that he won't get seated because he's a Russian agent and they're going to bring him down. And people, when the president's telling people that, they're believing it. So of course I was saying they were surveilling him. They were on the news saying it. And they think you have amnesia. They think you're a goldfish. Remember, Gruber said, thank God you're so dumb and have no memory. We're going to triple their health care prices because you're so stupid. I don't think you're stupid. I've been betting on you my whole life. I believe in you. And we got Trump elected. And we got the economy coming back. And we're kicking these traitors' asses politically. And we're not backing down ever. I want to get these people. We're winning. I can feel the spirit rising. Can't you? The turning point was yesterday. I was sick all day spiritually and feel the enemy launching with all its hate. But now the tide turned today. The tide turned on the 22nd day of May 2018. We have broken their back. Yes, I can feel it. Now, the enemy's still going to come after those of us that are hard charging and leading the spiritual ignition of this rocket. So I need you to spread the articles, the videos, and break their back fully in the information war and override the enemy. Because there will be counteroffensives, but I can tell you we've broken their back. I can feel it. Infowars.com, newswars.com. Let's go!
We are drugged out. We are following other people's opinions. We are controlled by the media. Today, it all changes. This reality has been forced upon us. It is a choice, just like when I said slavery is a choice. Einstein says the definition of insanity is doing the same thing, expecting a different result. So we keep on saying, I hate you, f you, f you. How are we gonna get a different result out of hate? Why don't we just try love? Why don't we just try love? We have the resources for a peaceful world. You know, sometimes you need some crazy motherfuckers to change something. Steve Jobs is crazy. Now we all on Steve Jobs' phones. They say Trump's crazy. They say I'm crazy. But I'm here to show love. It's a bigger plan, and I'm just doing what the universe told me.
Resistance to tyrants is obedience to God. It's Alex Jones.
You can just hear in Kanye's voice that spirit of liberty breaking through. He is on fire! And I'm on fire with the same spirit. It's love, it's liberty, it's freedom. The globalists are trying to infect us all with fighting with each other and lies to make it worse, not to make it better. You know why I got really excited earlier? Because I can feel it and I can see it and I can, you know when something's happened. You feel the energy. It's like when you're in the room and you know somebody died, even though you weren't paying attention. You look over and grandma's dead. She just went. You felt it. You feel somebody looking at you, you know, from the back in a restaurant. You turn around, sure enough, they're looking at you. It's been scientifically proven. It's much more complex than that. And I'm not bragging, but I've put my name, my energy, my guts, my will, my soul, my energy, everything I've poured in to resisting these people. And as I feel them weakening and imploding, I feel like I'm coming up out of the water like I'm alive. That's why I was just, yeah, like bursting out of the water. You're down there 1,000 feet clawing up for that air, and you bust up out of there, and it's like being born. So good. Whew. I'm telling you right now, everybody can feel it too. It's like the storm clouds are parting, and it's still going to be rough. It's going to be bad because we're going to face some big stuff coming down the road. But humanity is coming out of the fog right now. You ever been driving on the highway and it's so dark you can't even see, and it's raining, you got to pull over, and it's like 40, 50 mile an hour winds, your car's blowing around, and then all of a sudden you go out of the storm and it's like, it's not even any wind, and it's all beautiful blue skies. You're like, you get out of your car, park at some road stop, and you look back at the big storm and the lightning and everything, you're like, it's like two different universes. And that's what's happening. And their power over our minds and our souls, it's spiritual. They're losing power right now. You know, look at Michael Flynn Jr. sent this tweet out today. Everybody should retweet it. You're all going down. You know who you are. Mark my word. Michael Caputo came out and he said that, of course, there's other moles, and he's ready to name them from the FBI and the campaign. Well, it's pretty obvious who they are. They're the ones that kept going to all these meetings that had minutes and saying, hey, what about Russia? Let's meet with the Russians. Are the Russians pretty cool? Couldn't we, you know, disarm the Russians? Couldn't we sell the Russians? I mean, I had people when I was in D.C. walking over to me while I was at dinner tables, while I was sitting there with Navy SEALs, active duty, and the people walking over the table, they did it twice. They knew what Navy SEALs I was with. One of them was the leader of a major submarine group, a bunch of classified stuff. And This guy walks over to the middle of the table and says, you know, I really want to learn about selling some submarine technology to the Taiwanese. And the Navy SEALs go, I mean, that's the kind of stuff we're dealing with, where these people coming in have files on not just me, but who we're with. And imagine if we'd have just joked around, oh, yeah, I'll sell you some submarine technology. That's the level we're at here. So a lot of this I can't even get into, but I'm going to give you one of the moles, because Fox News has the big exclusive that, oh, my gosh, you know, Halperin was the mole. We told you that 5 days before the New York Times, and they did. And I've got a lot of other information here. I just want you to know that here's the headline. Another informant attempted to infiltrate Trump's campaign under Obama campaign, aide says, Michael Caputo. And Caputo, been talking to him. His lawyer didn't want him to come on, but I'm trying to get him on right now. Let us give you who one of the bigger moles is, who was leaking it to the media and to everybody else. And it's a mole that we exposed in dozens of articles last year, and that Trump became aware of and removed, and then removed who the mole brought in. And that, of course, was H.R. McMaster's and his aide. So let's get into this right now. Infowars.com, Clifford Cunningham. May 31st, 2017, bombshell, Soros insider infiltrates Trump campaign. Isn't that precious? Trump insider Roger Stone warned globalist billionaire George Soros has infiltrated the Trump administration through a newly appointed member of the National Security Council tied to CFR and Soros-funded school in Hungary, where his command base was. This is very hard to believe, but I am confirmed the facts. Again, this morning, George Soros has penetrated the Trump White House, said Stone during an appearance on the Alex Jones Show. Soros has planted a mole infiltrating the national security apparatus, a woman named Fiona Hill, who has a Harvard background. She has been on the Soros payroll and the payroll of the Open Society Institute. Well, Media Matters, that Soros funds, bragged to Politico 5 years ago that they were infiltrating conservative media outlets and trying to set people up. This is espionage. So, of course, they infiltrated. Of course, they were spying, and they've been caught. So all of this is coming out. See how that is in May 19th of The Intercept and Glenn Greenwald? Go to last Sunday. Go to our article from the Sunday before last. We broke it first. You can see it right there, YouTube. FBI mole inside Trump campaign exposed, exclusive. And it's right there. And the only reason I keep going back to that is that's why they fear us. That's why they hate us, because other people are all scared to do this. If we do it first, over and over and over again, then it makes it safe for others to do it. And that's why they say, where does Trump get all this? He gets it from Alex Jones. And where does Sean Hannity get it? Alex Jones. And where's Rush Limbaugh get it? Alex Jones. And the truth is, those people already all know this stuff too. They've got better sources than I do. Sean Hannity talks to the president every day. But Fox News tries to keep him on a leash. So I can put it out. Then that allows other people to research it. Then it breaks on local talk radio and other areas. And then it's safe for them to cover it. And that's how we're breaking the globalists and ripping them to pieces right now. So there it is. And we're going to reveal other moles. We know a bunch of them. We're going to be exposing it, actively leaking, lying about what they put out. The leaks themselves are fake. They use their proximity to the president to mix some truth with lies. This is what they're doing. They've got electronic leaking going on, all of it. But the big news here is criminal investigation now opened. They have them open and shut, lying to Congress. We have them now. We have the whole Clinton crime cabal at the top of the DOJ in desperate, deep trouble. And you can see all the sold-out media starting to realize this and starting to hedge their bets. Starting to say, hey, we need to impeach Trump, but let's get some real dirt first. We don't have any real dirt. When we shoot, we need to shoot to kill. That's the quote we're going to cover straight ahead. Coming up, we're going to play the video next segment. Democrat representative says we'll impeach Trump if we win back the House. But another Democrat then says, live on television, we need to shoot to kill, though. So that is coming up with their violent rhetoric that they couch in political parlance. That's all coming up in the next segment. Again, I'm your host, Alex Jones. Here in just a minute or two, I'm going to play a boil down of the media denying that there was any spying on Trump, and then later having to admit that, okay, there was spying on Trump. But you're going to learn about hundreds and hundreds of people in the executive branch and in the campaign that have been turned. There are thousands of people that were in Trump's orbit. Many people are very weak-minded. They're very dishonorable. They've been brought up with silver spoons in their mouths, and they're very two-faced. And so the more pressure got put on Trump, people would hedge their bets. People would go, oh, man, everybody's out to get him. I better go ahead and leak some stuff. I better go ahead and work with the media. That way, Washington will be nice to me if Trump gets destroyed. No, now they'll never hire you or work with you because you're a traitor. Because you're a sellout. Do you think these globalist scumbags sell each other out? No. They understand working together in their criminal enterprise. But those of you that helped lower the drawbridge on Trump have now been discovered, and you are going to either go to prison or never work again. Guaranteed. You screwed yourselves over. There's a quote here, one of my favorite quotes that I probably read on air 50 times in the last 23 years on air. And this time, former CIA Director John Brennan, the guy that said the president should watch his mouth 2 days before the inauguration, quotes Cicero while DOJ expands IG FISA abuse investigation. Now, what's the narrative? He's stupid. What did Bill Gates say? Donald Trump didn't know the difference between HPV, human papilloma virus, and HIV, which, you know, is just totally made up. But it's all about the narrative of how stupid he is. So Brennan has been defeated by this moron, Donald Trump. Brennan couldn't get a 3% growth rate. Now we're at 3.2. The new numbers are coming out at 4, reportedly. Heard that here first, by the way. So you got beaten by, I guess, the idiot strength of Trump. No, you guys are drunk on power and so crazy arrogant that you all bragged that he would never be seated as the president on January 20th. And then you had communists out there beating up families, trying to keep them from going in so you could shoot photos of the mall not being full. By the way, there's so many lies, I can't even keep track of them. BBC tweeted out on Saturday and tried to quote, the headline was BBC trolls. I'm going to do a whole piece on this. BBC trolls Trump. This is so incredible. And they said BBC trolls Trump because they show the royal wedding and how that entire big park was lined with people. And then it shows Trump's inauguration right when they open the gate, so it looks like it's empty. And they say, look, nobody came to see Trump's event. But they did go see the Queen. That was taken, that photo, at 8:30 in the morning. We did a whole report on this. Just a few minutes after they opened the gates, because they were wanding everybody and getting their tickets going in. You see the giant crowds of people trying to get in, all lined up on the sides. And the whole thing didn't kick off for a couple hours. So they show the wedding during the middle of it and say, look at this crowd. And it's zoomed in, by the way, to make it look bigger, so you can see each person. And then they show this far-off shot to deceive you and recycle that lie. We have the HD video. We have the HD photos from CNN taken from the Capitol, and you can see the record crowd, according to the Capitol Police. But again, this is how they systematically lie at every level and every angle at every point perpetually. Oh, there's the headline. BBC trolls Trump. No, they trolled the people watching. Oh, look, our hereditary queen, our hereditary dictator. Oh, look, these rich welfare queens. They live off the people while thousands of old people freeze to death every year because the government cut off their gas allotment. While old people freeze to death, the BBC worships the monarchy, and then look, oh, There it is right when the mall opened, if you're a TV viewer, and then let's show while the president was being sworn in. Let's show it again from CNN's own digital camera. But CNN didn't care. One part of CNN posted the digital camera photos, the super pixel, 200 megapixel or whatever. But then separately, CNN also ran the lie of showing it empty and said, look, no one was there. While the real story was people were getting beaten up. I saw women beaten up by Antifa and communists while the police, still under Obama's control until the president was sworn in, allowed it. So there's the real photo. And by the way, I'm in that crowd. I'm right there. In the crowd. Boom. There I am. I was there. 50 yards from the president being sworn in. And that's how stupid they think you are. That's what they show you on CNN, BBC. They say nobody was there. Hell, they might as well just taken a photo the day before. And then I was there. I saw it. I witnessed it all. This is the criminal evil of these people. Makes me really get upset. Now, before I go any further, we need to be funded. Yes, we're starting to break their back. Yes, we're starting to go over the top. Yes, we're having huge victories. Yes, a lot of amazing things are happening. But we need your support now more than ever. And we make it easy. Man, let me tell you, most people are deficient in iodine. Most of the iodine out there isn't absorbed in the body because it's bound with other metals, with other halogens. If you get true iodine, it's amazing, and it's changed my life and so many other people's lives in really an amazing way. We've got it 50% off, which we never do, even though it's our best seller, even though we're running out of it, when you get it with BioTrue Selenium, because selenium is so key with the electrochemical activities that happen with iodine. Iodine is absolutely vital, just like oxygen, just like water. Without iodine, just like without vitamin C, you're bye-bye. And they keep lowering the amount they say you need. The government used to put it in the salt, now they take it out. And they put the bad halogen in your water in the same family, but the bad one. Fluoride, chlorine, bromide, bromine. It's insane. It lowers IQ, it lowers fertility. Look it up for yourself. Find out about being supercharged with Survival Shield X2 and BioTrue Selenium. 50% off right now. That special has got to end very soon. A bunch of specials that are ending today are the Real Red Pill, 50% off, Body's Ultimate Turmeric Formula, 50% off, all of the fluoride-free X2 powered iodine fortified, colloidal silver fortified toothpaste for children and adults, and the Immune Gargle in 3 sizes, and the mouthwash, all fortified with colloidal silver and iodine. That is all going off of sale today because we have a new sale tomorrow that will be one product. It's a great deal, but it's going to be one product, a new product launch tomorrow. So all those specials you just heard are ending. 50% off on DNA Force Plus, now even stronger with the PQQ, BioCoQ10, and so much more. Oh, you and your family deserve that. That's about to end. So all the big specials end today, except the X2 and BioTrue Selenium. That 50% off special will go for, I don't know, maybe till next Monday, and then it's over. Because we're running out of the supplies of X2. But I want you to try it, see how great it is. And a lot of folks only order it when it's massively discounted, then they start ordering it once they've tried it. So it's introductory offer to those of you who haven't tried it. InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com, or 888-253-3139. Stay with us as the Second American Revolution goes into high gear. Look at these headlines on DrudgeReport.com. A lot of them are also on InfoWars.com. We're going to be covering them coming up in the next hour with Dr. Nick Begich. Next, implantable health monitors inside soldiers. It's already going on. First reported it 15 years ago from Army sources. Also, robots can grow human organs and are already doing it. And it gets better. China celebrates its new social credit system, not letting millions of people fly for not being good boys and girls, being tracked by the AI computer. And then it gets even better. London hospital to replace doctors and nurses with AI. Let me give you a little news flash, ladies and gentlemen. There's something called bioethics. It replaced the Hippocratic Oath of Hippocrates. And for at least 8 years, a computer program called Watson, named after Thomas Watson of IBM, infamy, came out with the fact that they had computers deciding what troops, what veterans would be given health care. That was the secret death list. And hospitals are already putting these computers in because they found that they can't get the bioethics boards, even though it's all about money, to kill enough people, to refuse care to enough folks, to lie to people and turn their families off before they come out of comas if their insurance has run out. And so now it's going to be Thomas Watson computers all over the world running it. And isn't that fitting? Because it was Thomas Watson computers back when he was alive, called the Hollerith machine, that ran the Nazi Holocaust. And he received the highest award ever given by the Nazi Party or Nazi government for what he did. There's a best-selling Pulitzer Prize-winning book about it. There's several books detailing it, and you can find out all about it. We've had Edwin Black on, IBM and the Holocaust. So you might want to find out about it. Isn't that sweet? Sweet. There it is. IBM dealt directly with Holocaust organizers, the London Guardian. That's a whitewash. It's the left that ran the Nazis. It was all a beta test. It's all declassified. Because they're not the left, folks. They're the Nazis. That they fill that space, and everything's race-based because the Nazis are race-based. They just do it from a minority position to make whites hate minorities and vice versa for total control. It's next-level Nazism. And Bill Gates' father ran the operation for Planned Parenthood and actually wrote up the main diagrams for the takeover of the U.S. And this is all public. He talked about it on PBS 20 years ago. And now his son was given control of some of the main systems to run it. He's a complete front, is in control of none of it himself. But meanwhile, Germany's Nazi hunters will like go some grab jail guard that can't even prove it was them because it's some 95-year-old dude who can't defend themselves. Go, look, we got a Nazi, we got a Nazi. It's all fake. Tomorrow's news today, right here, Infowars.com. My film, Martial Law, Rise of the Police State, is 3 hours long. The last hour is about this subject. You might want to go watch it free online. The leftist professors in Slate want that particular video banned, saying that it's Nazi. You heard me right, because it exposes the Nazis. They're nasty little fellows, aren't they? Very, very nasty little fellows. Very nasty. They think you're so stupid. But I never got to the Brennan quote. I'll do it in the next segment where he quotes Cicero. I mentioned it earlier and went off on a side tangent. Let's go to this report, though, of the egg on their face saying that no one was spying on Trump. There was no infiltration. This is beyond Watergate. We boil it down. This goes back a year and a half ago right through to this week. Here it is.
One thing that happens when you make wild, unproven claims, as Trump does, is that the people around you have to go to increasingly ridiculous lengths to try to defend those claims. And this weekend, we saw another example of that when White House counselor Kellyanne Conway was asked if she had any proof for Trump's outlandish claim that Obama wiretapped him during the campaign, and offered this bizarre answer.
How does he know that his phone was actually tapped?
Let me answer that globally. He's the president of the United States. He has information and intelligence that the rest of us do not.
You know what? Yeah, I'll agree with that. Trump has intelligence that I definitely do not. I agree.
I just want to add this. They were breaking the law to release the fact they were first surveilling him. He made that point. Criminal investigations were started. He's been letting them get the rope around their neck. And boy, isn't it around their necks now. Continue.
Listen, people, one more time. Trump's accusation is ridiculous and pathetic.
He's suggesting a U.S. president enlisted a foreign intelligence service to spy on a political adversary. That is an explosive charge.
This is a serious allegation. This might be the most serious allegation any president has made against a previous president.
But this is a very serious allegation for a sitting president to make about his predecessor.
Trump tweeted, terrible, just found out that Obama had my wires tapped in Trump Tower just before the victory. Nothing.
By the way, Trump got that from people inside the British government and from folks inside Infopol 9 and from the director of the NSA, Admiral Rogers, that came and briefed him. But he's not supposed to tell you that. so they can play these games. We have them red-handed. Continue.
This is McCarthyism. And the other one, how low has President Obama gone to tap my phones during the very sacred election process? This is Nixon Watergate, bad or sick guy. He said Obama is either a bad or sick guy. Maybe he means him as compliments, like, yeah, man, he's bad. He's a bad guy.
The NSA's deputy director told the BBC it was arrant nonsense, revealing a complete lack of understanding in how the relationship works. And for their part, GCHQ called the accusations utterly ridiculous. And yet, rather than distancing himself from Spicer, Trump decided to back him up.
The craziest thing about Trump calling for an investigation without any evidence, zero evidence. Trump has not produced a shred of evidence.
There is no evidence for Trump's claims.
The evidence did not come.
So where did Trump get his info? From the CIA? From the FBI?
Where are you getting this information?
From a very reputable source.
What, the FBI, the CIA?
InfoWars. It's a radio show hosted by Alex Jones. You know he's legit.
This bizarre circular thing happening where the president cites a theory that he was wiretapped, which developed on the kind of fringe right-wing media. And then after his tweet storm, InfoWars then started saying, well, look, it was the New York Times that reported it, citing our story, misreading our story. And now, a few weeks later, the White House and the president are citing InfoWars. So they've got one kind of bizarre right-wing fringe theory to defend another bizarre right-wing fringe theory, both of which there's no evidence to support.
Major developments again tonight on the deep state spying on the Trump campaign. James Clapper, Barack Obama's former director of national intelligence, is actually today saying it was a good thing that the Trump campaign had a spy for the FBI in their campaign during an election.
It turns out, according to new reports, the FBI may have had a spy in or interacting with the Trump campaign during the 2016 election, a government spy in the campaign.
Remember when Trump was ridiculed by everyone when he said, I was wiretapped? He speaks in shorthand at Twitter, I was wiretapped, or whatever that tweet was.
He meant surveilled.
Yeah, he meant surveilled. He was right.
He was absolutely right. Judge Andrew Napolitano.
They trashed him.
Right here on Fox was the first one to call this. Look, this has to be seen in context. Not only did they use a phony, fabricated dossier as the underlying legal rationale for the spying on the Republican candidate for president, using the power and the authority and the capability of the state to spy on one of the two major party candidates, an abuse of power, but now they infiltrated the Trump campaign with a FBI agent. This makes Watergate look like small potatoes.
This is Watergate on steroids. Remember the Nixon scandal? It was about a third-rate burglary. This is a deep state political hit job now spying on an opposition party campaign, FBI spies during an election.
A human intelligence asset may have been inserted in your political rival's campaign? I mean, how this isn't front page news on every newspaper across the globe is stunning.
We have a cabal of FBI agents who took it upon themselves to investigate a candidate and his campaign. And then we have, of course, actual spies, one or more, in the Trump campaign. What the hell is this? The Soviet Union? Venezuela? It's the United States of America.
If that's the case, this is not America. We don't have a constitution. This is something you'd expect from the former Soviet Union, Venezuela.
I'm not saying this as a Republican or conservative. I find it frightening that the power of the federal government can be used in this manner in the middle of a political season with spurious or scant evidence.
Next year's news today, InfoWars, second hour. We're teeing it up with ultra-massive key intel straight ahead. It's on Infowars.com exclusively. A third mole has been discovered, this time inside the White House. Third mole exposed inside the White House. It's on Infowars.com right now. Get the article out. They don't want you to get this article out. We are well into the 21st century, my friends. There are a lot of good things happening and a lot of bad things happening. Coming up, Dr. Nick Begich is going to join us, and we're going to look at hospitals across the world are now letting AI computers decide who lives and who dies, so the doctors and nurses don't feel bad about the insurance companies and governments programming who dies. So you put the responsibility on a computer, and people find it's easier to then kill people. And, of course, Hitler was obsessed with IBM and Thomas Watson and gave him the highest award in Nazi Germany. And it's IBM is the main system starting out 8 years ago in the VAs that says, oh, you got an operable cancer? Computer says, we're not going to give you the surgery. Go die. But the computer knows to send you to appointment after appointment and never even tells you what you've been diagnosed with. It's all programmed with delicious precision. Here it is. The London Guardian, though, tells you about it. It's going to save the National Health Service. That the UK pedophile government will now be in control fully. Not the doctors, but, oh, the AI. You mean who programs the AI? Perhaps Cobra Commander. London hospitals should replace doctors and nurses with AI for some task. So they're introducing us. Of course, you'd think of the real Terminators as like looking like humans and going dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun, you know, killing humans. Oh, no. It'll be a nice nurse and doctor coming in and saying, all right, you're going to go home now. You might feel a little dizzy in a few months, might lose some vision. We'll supply you with hospitals. What do I have, doctor? What's wrong with me? That's the computer made the decision. Thank you, bye-bye. We're not allowed to know what the scan said. The computer looked at it. You got a big old giant fat brain tumor. One of your eyes didn't even point in the right direction. You'll be dead in a couple months. Your brain tumor is 97% operable, but the machine is going to kill you because it's liberal. Oh, it's so good. And all the liberals think they're going to get all these big free goodies are coming. And what you're going to get is what the National Health Service, I told you, just like Cuba or Venezuela. Oh, one leg's 4 inches shorter than the other, sweetheart? We're not going to go in for a surgery that costs about $5,000 in the U.S. that most places would just donate to you. You know, they have charities that pay for it for an extension in your femur. We're going to cut your leg off. We're liberal. 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 As long as you go liberal. It's all just sick mental illness, sick filth, sick pedophiles, sick garbage. IBM, literal Nazi murder machine, will now kill you, and you will love it. What do I got to do to get your attention and explain this? I've been telling you this for 23 years. In fact, we got to go back and find my show from 20 years ago and air it. It's like prophecy. But it's not. They wrote books. They wrote Brave New World. And they said everything they were going to do to you and your family. I remember 20 years ago, they got rid of the Hippocratic Oath of Hippocrates. I'll do a report on that. But don't worry, the little liberal controllers at YouTube and Facebook go, oh, Alex put a video up about eugenics. Oh, we're liberal. We're wearing different color socks. And, you know, it'll be some trendy guy. Oh, Alex is hateful. Block his video. Who cares about those veterans anyways? Good, they're killers. Get rid of them. Cut their health care off. I know I'm going to get mine. I'm going to have a good social score with the system. No, you're not. You're the first people they're going to get rid of. Why do you think they jacked in New York over 100,000 people, most of them gay men with live HIV to start the spread? They're going to kill you so good you don't ever know what's going to hit you. Oh, you got raped by a priest? The Pope says it's okay to be gay. He's saying you're homophobic if you don't want an old pot-bellied man to bend you over when you're 5 years old and rape the hell out of you. It's liberal. Yeah, and all of you are going to get the death you want. You're all going to get euthanized. You'll be so brain damaged and satanic when you die, you'll love it. And you'll go directly into Satan's arms. You will descend directly into the dimension of hell. Why has Elon Musk over and over again warned you that AI is going to kill you? Why has he said that AI is already killing you? And he warns you to look at it when he's a multi-billionaire globalist, let's say inside the globalist system. But a good guy overall, probably. He has a conscience. Because he's gone to the same meetings that Bill Joy's gone to and talked about, where they've made the decision to euthanize you, to cut off resources, dumb you down, use psych warfare, to where you accept your servitude and your extermination. That's pretty heavy. But that's everything I put in Endgame that came out 11 years ago. Elon Musk is now saying it. The film's free online. You might want to go watch Endgame, Blueprint for Global Enslavement. Major professors in Slate magazine are calling for that film and others by name to be removed. He calls it a Nazi movie. The film exposes the Nazis and Cold Springs Harbor and IBM. So how are they going to get around to that? Well, I remember learning 8 years ago, 2 years into Obama's administration, that there were death lists at the VA and that a computer would say who got a surgery, who got anything. And it takes it out of the hands of humans. You say, oh, a computer can't make a mistake. It's a god. It's up there. It makes the decision. Who programs the computer? And what is the computer's name at the hospitals where this has been adopted? It's called Thomas, after Thomas Watson. And I keep going over this because we're already under AI control. And who's programming the AI? And there's just ads all over TV. Trust AI. Let it run things. It knows what to do. But AI is like a gun. It's a tool that can be programmed a certain way. It can do good. It can do bad. The hospitals have tried to get rid of the Hippocratic Oath. They've tried to bring in their bioethics boards, but still they have lawsuits. They have problems. People have ethical issues about killing folks that shouldn't be turned off and all the rest of it, and not giving people eye surgery they need or not giving people leg surgery they need, telling little girls in the National Health Service, we could straighten out your leg for $5,000, 3,000 pounds, but we're not going to do it because the AI said you don't get it. The AI, the computer says, chop your leg off. Do you see how the decision process is being removed? Pretty soon they say cop cars are going to have cameras on the cops and everything, and AI in the ear of the cop is going to tell them procedure to follow and tell them, you're not doing right. I'm reporting you. You have a Section 783 filing for what you've done. That is one demerit, officer such and such. But if you perfectly follow what the robot says, Sergeant Johnson, Sergeant Sanchez, you have a perfect score this quarter. You will be given 5,000 bonus credits. And that's the system. So they're already taking humans out of it. And here it is, just like, oh, no big deal. You know, it's the London Guardian. Oh, London hospitals replace doctors and nurses with AI. No big deal. And, oh, they're just going to make the decisions. It's just some task like, you know, deciding we're going to get cancer treatment. But don't worry, it's game-changing benefits. Oh, yay, oh, it's here. Like the self-driving cars killing everybody. And just like calculators made it where nobody could do math anymore and children can't even write anymore English language. Oh, they've got emojis, though. Happy, sad, skull, rainbow, kitty cat, unicorn. White face, black face, green face. Police car, telephone, computer. We have emojis now. You can see how this is going. It's going quite well, isn't it? All right, I'm done ranting about that. I've got some big news I want to hit here. And I also want to take a few of your phone calls. We got Nick Begich coming up, but I want to get a few of your phone calls. Just your quick approximation of the indictments that are forthcoming against the deep state players for their criminal spying on the Trump campaign, bigger than Watergate by an order of magnitude, blown wide open. The third mole exposed inside the White House exclusively at Infowars.com. If you want to go find out about the third mole, Caputo said there's a second mole. We have the third mole named for you on Infowars.com. It's a pretty big deal. I want to go read about that for yourself at Infowars.com. And then we've got all of this other insane news that we're going to hit. The toll-free number to join us is 877-789-ALEX. But who even needs a number? Just have a chip in your brain like they're announcing they're going to put the troops. That's mainstream news today. And just say, Alex Jones Show, call it. But see, the AI then is not going to let you call that show or not let you go to that. That's already happening. Hell, it's already deciding who lives and who dies, who gets health care. Why not? It's liberal. 877-789-ALEX, 877-789-2539, specifically on, do you think the tide's turned? I can see it's turned. Doesn't mean we're winning the whole war, but humanity's really starting to wake up, and we should do something about this. But we're going to talk with Dr. Nick Begich about all the things that are happening. You know, I saw it on Drudge. It's on InfoWars. You guys print me that article about the troops to get implanted chips in them, just to be part of the military. Thought people might want to know that. Because remember, we were all insane. That was never coming. That was never going to happen, but now it's here. And then I've got two video clips I haven't gotten to yet. Harvard law professor Lawrence Tribe warns the Dems pushing Trump impeachment, you have to shoot to kill. We're going to explain what that means. Or I'm going to give you my take on that coming up. And then we're also going to get to this other Democrat congressman saying, oh, we will impeach Trump. In fact, let's just do that right now. let's go ahead and play first the Democrat congressman. And, of course, that is Representative Al Green. He says, we'll impeach Trump if we win back the House. That's the plan. And we've got tribes saying shoot to kill. Let's go ahead and play Al Green. Here it is.
Representative Green, if Democrats take back the House in November, what is the likelihood that Speaker Nancy Pelosi will bring up an impeachment charge?
I'll let Speaker Pelosi address her actions. But here is a point that I think is salient and one that ought to be referenced. Every member of the House is accorded the opportunity to bring up impeachment. This is not something that the Constitution has bestowed upon leadership. It's something that every member has the right and privilege of doing. So I'm not sure that there'll be members who are going to wait for someone else if that someone else, doesn't matter who it is declining to do it. We can all do it. And I think that there's a good likelihood that there will be articles of impeachment.
Have you heard directly from the minority leader about these efforts of yours, specifically to asking you to stop, asking you to hold back, anything along that line?
Well, I don't think you have to ask me whether I've heard. I think it's probably, if you've read publications, it's intuitively obvious to perhaps even the most casual observer that she and I are in different places on this. And I respect her position.
We have AI for 8 years at least killing tens of thousands of U.S. soldiers, veterans, just saying no health care. It's on record, death list. The government will investigate. Then they went, don't worry, we're going to put computers in all the VAs. They'll fix it. They're the ones killing everybody. Meanwhile, U.S. military to spend 50 million pounds on digital brain implants to create super soldiers. Where'd you first hear about that? But really what it creates is people that can wipe your memory. Yes, you'll be a super soldier now. It'll just turn off your inhibitions and stuff, so you'll end up having heart attacks and break your back and everything. And then, of course, we'll just wipe your memories after we're done. That's all admitted as well. But it's okay. It's liberal. We don't need men anyways. We're getting rid of humans in combat. That's part of the sabotage they're doing right now. Then we've got Tribe. Here's part of the clip, shoot to kill. He's saying, oh, we want to get rid of him, but we don't want to go after something petty that's fraudulent. We want to find something real. Here it is.
And that's impeachment. There's
right, I want to talk to you about that.
Yeah.
I want to get into that, but let me just ask you one more point, because another thing that's getting some purchase that I want to get your take on is, but did they have to do it this way? A confidential source sounds like a spy. He was talking to people, obviously without revealing that he was working for the government with different officials in the Trump campaign. Sounds like infiltration. Why isn't it as nefarious as it sounds?
Because it's what the investigating arms of the United States and of every state and city do all the time. You know, crooks don't just announce what they're doing. You need to have a bit of undercover help in bringing out the truth. The Supreme Court, ever since the early 1950s, has said that the standard technique of using informers to tell you what members of an organized criminal structure or conspiracy are doing isn't even a form of surveillance or search. You don't need a warrant. It's nothing like a FISA warrant. It's just a matter of, I mean, if some guy like George Papadopoulos gets drunk at a bar and tells the Australian ambassador, you know, I'm working with the Trump people and we got a lot of dirt on them from Russia about Hillary. You expect that the ambassador is going to keep quiet about it? He's going to talk to people.
Papadopoulos thought he'd keep quiet, and that was his mistake. Let me ask you about the book, Professor.
Was his mistake, yeah.
This book is a really great and pretty digestible walk down what impeachment means, where it comes from, but it comes with a note of political caution from you, that one, Democrats shouldn't be rushing down the road of impeachment, that there are real implications, but at the same time, you give an interesting take on what you think might qualify as a high crime or misdemeanor, the threshold for articles of impeachment, and you say abuse of power may be something that has to be focused on. Take us through the case.
Well, the basic point, and it's clear from what the framers said at the very beginning, and it's clear in the history of the impeachment power, is that it's really about abusing the authority that we give to high officials like the president. It's not about garden variety crime. I mean, if it turns out, as I wouldn't be surprised to find, that Donald Trump has been guilty of tax evasion, that may be a crime, but it's not an impeachable offense. On the other hand, if Donald Trump uses the powers of the United States government to cover up his own criminality or to cover up the way in which he cooperated with Moscow in order to win the presidency, that may or may not qualify as an ordinary federal crime, but it's certainly an impeachable offense. Or if he decides, you know, I'm simply not going to protect the United States from foreign attack. I'm busy making money. I'd rather be a kleptocrat than carry out my oath. That's not a crime, but it's certainly a basis for removing a president. And if the evidence that Robert Mueller is collecting forms a kind of compelling case that a overwhelming bipartisan majority of the American people find convincing that this guy is just too dangerous to keep in power, then we do have the emergency power of impeachment available. But it will be available only if we don't use it loosely and kind of ring the bell every time something looks amiss. You can't be the boy who cried wolf and expect to have a viable impeachment power. You can't use it over and over again against the same president.
Right.
If you're going to shoot him, you've got to shoot to kill. And that requires an overwhelming majority of a bipartisan kind. Otherwise, you're just going to nick the guy and make him feel empowered and vindicated.
Right. You look at the two examples we have in history of Clinton and, of course, President Johnson. Johnson got by, I think, by what, 1 vote or something. But if you don't have it successfully, if you don't have a real consensus, you now have what you call a wounded and dangerous tiger. Professor Tribe, appreciate it. The book is a must-read for people who want to talk about this topic. Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks.
If there was a broadcast coming out of the New World Order, a psychic transmission, it would say, I hate you. I hate you. I hate you. I hate you. I want to kill you. I hate you. I'm going to kill you. I hate you. And that's what it is. Coming up, Dr. Nick Begich. Mainstream news, brain chips, Artie and the troops. I have some family that's now out of the military, and he was at Fort Sam Houston University for an officer's deal, and they said, this is like 15 years ago, everybody's going to start getting chips in the officer corps, and then we're going to have volunteers, we're going to get brain chips. He told me about it, and I didn't even say who he was. I just said family. He got in big trouble and then didn't get a promotion over it and said, yes, I told you that, but I'm never talking to you again about the military. But, I mean, who cares if you didn't get a promotion? You told me you're in the meeting with like 1,000 officers or whatever, and they're talking about putting brain chips in everybody. Mainstream news today. You like that? And who programs these things? Yeah. The Southern Poverty Law Center, George Soros, and the ADL and the Atlantic Council are all in Facebook, Google, and Twitter. It's in the news today, running everything. They're already programming it. So I guess George Soros and I guess Madame Blavatsky and Aleister Crowleyites, I guess they'll decide what you're programmed with. Because that's who's running stuff now. Hollywood's going to run your brain chip, I guess. You just can't turn it off. Think about that. I just did like 4 segments on this subject, but it's just insane. It's totally insane. And it's really happening. I'm sorry. The doctor doesn't decide what treatment you get. The Thomas IBM computer does. And then if you have a memory and even know how sick that is, that's the guy that ran the death camps and the machines. It's if we put up with this, we deserve it, okay? I mean, that's all I'm saying. Okay, Steve, Phil, Roland, Javon, Josh, and others, we're going to go to you here in just milliseconds. Who should we go to first? Let's go ahead and talk to Phil in Georgia, then we'll go to a bunch of other callers. Go ahead, Phil.
Hey, Alex, honored to speak with you. I really appreciate this. Hey, real briefly, a number of years ago, I was asked to give some speeches about economic development, and I couldn't believe how I was attacked because apparently I hit a nerve. It was basically energy over manufacturing. But the interesting part was how I was attacked. I was attacked multiple times in audits. I got audited like 4 times in a row. That's when I started listening to you, and it wasn't until that period of time when I figured out that, oh, my God, it's really the Republicans trading me out, you know? Anyway, I love your show, and I love how accurate you are. I'm happy to speak with you. I was former military myself, and I appreciate what you're saying about this. I totally agree with you.
Well, obviously, the old Republicans are just the same branch of the Democrats. They're globalists. With Trump, I think we're seeing a real attempt to drain the swamp now, and it's accelerating, and they're panicking. But look, the veterans are already the target of the globalists because they want automatons. They want machines to carry out their bidding, not men and women that they're threatened by who at least have courage to fight. But what do you make of the IBM eugenics computer already in control of the VA?
Well, it's not hard for me to believe. You know, it's the same sickness they have everywhere. They take control. They don't want people thinking, but they don't want anybody actually engaged in in ethics.
They want to take the thinking process out of a rancher, a police officer, a factory worker, a teacher, a military officer. They want everybody to be centrally programmed so no one can question. It is pure evil. God bless you, Phil. We're going to go to more calls here right now. Let's talk to Roland in Texas. You're on the air. Thanks for calling, Roland.
It's a pleasure to be online with you. Love your show. Been at it for years listening to you. Real quick, briefly, so I just opened up a Twitter account. Added everybody on your list as followers from InfoWars, from the top to the bottom. After, I would say an hour when I had time, I started to retweet everything that y'all were saying. And once I retweeted everything, I ended up getting a message saying that I was blocked, I guess, for behavior violation. I don't know if that means anything. I felt it was a whistleblower.
No, that's bad behavior. You tried to communicate with people. Look, they have a Chinese social score. They celebrated today by blocking 11 million flights. So, I mean, this is the total mark of the beast, tracking everything you do. And Apple has moved to China. They've given them all the codes to your computers, all the codes to the cloud. And they said, well, of course, that's what you do in China. They're now tax exempt. They're good liberal billionaires. They pay no tax, and they have slave workers at Foxconn Laboratories. And if anybody criticizes it, well, they can't get a job or eat, and they starve to death. Isn't that liberal? It's so liberal. But thank God Starbucks can let homeless people sleep in the bathroom. That's real freedom. And 5-year-olds can be taught how to cut their genitals off. And little girls can be taught how to commit suicide. And we can have this anti-female movement of weird devil worshippers that go shoot kids up at schools. I mean, it's just Satanism. It's a mental illness, pure evil, mark of the beast. It's here. Brain chips in the troops, AI computers deciding who lives and dies. It's insane.
I agree.
And I'm the weirdo because I saw it coming. And I'm freaking out about it because I believe in people. And the globalists just keep going. I haven't talked to in probably 8-9 years. I have off-record discussions with some of them. And they just go, Alex, you're never going to help them. Just join us. Just help your family. Just join us. I don't want to be around you people. I've been around you. You're super evil. I feel empty around you. You're bad. So, I mean, I'm between a rock and a hard place. You got the dumbed-down public being literally brainwashed and slowly killed. You've got psycho globalists with their weaponized Hollywood. They got AI computers already killing people all over the world, and it's incredible. But again, they're not like all metal like the Terminator, dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun, shooting people. It's all liberal. Oh, liberal. The computer says bye-bye. Isn't that trendy?
That's crazy.
But they sold to the liberals like, oh, if somebody's 95 and can't be kept alive, we won't keep them alive. That's totally reasonable. And then it's like, sorry, you don't get that cancer removed that's totally operable because you're 55. Oh, sorry, little girl, we're going to chop your leg off instead of giving you a $5,000 surgery. Liberal, 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 liberal. You're not racist, are you? Liberal, 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 liberal. You know, don't worry, we're not going to say mother and father. We're free. We give you all these crazy made-up rights of a lunatic asylum. And it's all scientifically admitted. It's in all the documents, all the white papers, all the WikiLeaks, all the plans, my brother. It's all there. It's all there. The guy, Dr. Nick Begich, his dad's a famous congressman they killed. His brother, of course, is U.S. Senator formerly. He was the guy that with the patents. With the patents, where they had cell phone technology in the 50s that could control your mind. He broke it all down, and he's coming up next. God bless you. Roland, anything else?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say I'm praying for you. I'm praying for InfoWars, and God bless America. Also praying for Trump.
God bless you. Well, the good news is record low numbers of people taking vaccines in the U.S. just came out today. And the other news is record numbers of new diseases by the people been vaccinated. Take the measles shot, get the measles. Take the shingles shot, get the shingles. But wait, it gets better. Give it to your baby. Might have a convulsion. Might be autistic for life. A good soft kill. Or they might die outright. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Infowars.com. Stay with us. We are back live, broadcasting worldwide, and riding shotgun with us for the balance of this hour and the next, and we'll take some calls, is Dr. Nick Begich, who trailblazed exposing the whole technocracy situation. So here are some of the mainstream headlines from Business Insider, Associated Press, Daily Mail, you name it, just this week. Government leaks files describing remote mind control, forced memory blanking using cell towers and cell phones. Government accidentally sent strange conspiracy theory file. U.S. military to spend 50 million pounds on digital brain implants to create super soldiers. Sunday Express. Continuing, Facebook and the Atlantic Council unite social media. This is intelligence agencies, foreign ones, working with Facebook to shut up Americans. And it just continues on from there. I've got a big stack of news here about wiping memories in snails. I've got a big stack of news here dealing with how IBM computers and other AI systems are already in place deciding who lives and dies, and they're programmed by government and the insurance companies, where if you're politically a patriot, veterans have noticed they're not given treatment, but if you're a globalist, you get it. Well, that's the Chinese social score that's going global with your health care, with your ID, with your digital number. India has it. Canada's got it. It's coming in here. You can't travel. You can't get on planes. You can't get a job. You can't live. When you go in for health care, the AI says you don't get health care. In fact, they won't even tell you what's wrong with you. And notice they're doing it first, the National Health Service in England and the VA, wherever they've got government management, and it's IBM Thomas computer. Now, I spent much of the last few hours on that. It is unbelievable news. It is so incredibly important that everybody be aware of that and understand it all. We're going to get into this with Dr. Nick Begich, the 5G, all of it, with the guy that first exposed it all from the open source U.S. Patent Office and University DARPA documents. But when Eisenhower said, beware of the military-industrial complex, before that, we should do an intro or promo with this we play all the time. He said, we beware of a technological elite taking control of the country and then using the military-industrial complex for total control. So that's the huge news here. And then we've got other big news. I'm glad a caller called in about this. We'll go to them soon. At commencement, Al Gore urges graduates to reclaim the integrity of American democracy. But the real headline, we got to get a story on this out right now and get it to Drudge. He said that the American experiment with the Trump administration should, like some scientific ventures, be terminated early for ethical reasons. So he's saying, abort the president is what that statement is. So I wanted to spend a few minutes in this segment and get into all the technical stuff for the rest of the broadcast with Nick Begich and your calls, because his dad was a famous congressman that died very mysteriously in a plane crash for fighting the system. And then his brother has also been a U.S. senator. But everybody knows Nick Begich for being a scientist. I'm not going to go through all his degrees and his background and all his best-selling books exposing atmospheric manipulation, HAARP, and the thousands of patents. And he says, Alex, don't worry about the chemicals in the water. That's bad enough. It's the electromagnetic manipulation. And now it's being admitted. So this is being deployed against us. So he joins us now. But I wanted to ask him first, as a smart political brain, what he makes of Trump, his report card. I think he's starting to break the back so far of the swamp, beginning to drain it as all the revelations of illegal spying come out. I still think we're not out of the woods, but I think that people need to stay the course, because I really see signs that Trump is strengthening and the globalists and their whole plan are weakening, and that humanity might have some hope, not just through Trump, but through all the nationalists and populists in your work, understanding there's a breakaway civilization, there's a technocracy, there is a system that is breaking away from us, and it doesn't want us to be involved in it. But if we're involved in it and just study it, then we can take control of it for the betterment of humanity, just like they didn't want global government being debated. They would say just 5 years ago didn't exist still. When you and I covered it, and you would be on with Art Bell or George Norrie, we get attacked for it. But now it's all out in the open. So I see that we've made giant leaps from where we were. And even though it seems like things are really bad now, if you look at how far we've come, I think we've come far enough in the awakening process that if we just keep pushing, it's going to get easier and easier and easier as we go. I think we've reached the top of the hill if humanity recognizes the chance and grabs at it. What do you say, Dr. Nick Begich of Earth Pulse?
I think it's true. The fact of the matter is, if the public now recognizes the power that they actually have in this equation for making change, for doing it differently, we have that opportunity right now. I mean, over 25 years ago, I started talking about this stuff and sort of where the trends were headed, and we are there. Unfortunately, we're like at 5 minutes to midnight once again, which seems to be always the case in American politics. We always wait sort of to the last minute. Now, when I look at sort of the conditioning and what's happening, you mentioned the social scoring that China is now doing. That really is part of the whole system right now across the globe. When you look at what China is doing, and then you look at their next door neighbor, India, in terms of facial recognition, fingerprints, I mean, all of the biometrics that are being instituted now just to get plugged into their banking system and into their system of social services, voting, et cetera. And they've done most of it. I mean, I think it's 1.1 billion people already, and more to come. The whole shift is more towards the elite. In fact, I have this conversation often with a lot of people. I don't think Trump is part of that elite. I think all of us know that. And there's a lot of people who would like to see him go. But look at the scorecard: lowest unemployment, highest stock market. People are coming to the tables, talking to America again. The trade agreements are out and being revitalized in America's interest. And I think the approach is certainly radically different than the past, and radically different is what America needed and what American citizens voted for. And we have it. And let's see what happens. In terms of the control aspect, social media has been in the news. It was engineered from the very beginning to have one purpose, and that is to move public opinion and control the culture. I mean, when you look at media across the board, people say, oh, it doesn't have such an effect. Yes, it does. It is. And
they act like it's a scandal when Trump and people do some public scraping just to reach out to folks, when that's like first grade math compared to quantum mechanics with what Facebook and the Democrats have been openly doing. It's such a joke when they go, we didn't know there was social engineering. Gee, how evil. They contacted people on Facebook that were public databases. How terrible. We need to control this, which means putting everybody that's a libertarian, a conservative, you name it, a pro-human person into an electronic gulag.
Right, and you look at, you're talking about putting spies in someone's campaign. This is exactly what was happening in the 1960s and early 70s here in the U.S. under the Hoover FBI, who was blackmailing half the Congress, really pushing a lot from that dark side of government. And it was Hale Boggs strongly opposing him up until the point in which he was finally out of the FBI. But the institution still had the same rot, the same structure, the same internal, sort of culture that had evolved under Hoover. That did not change. I don't think it's changed today. The idea that it's a political arm, think about this. We hear all this saber rattling about, for instance, intellectual property rights in China, as an example. But, right here in the U.S., they don't defend our intellectual property rights whatsoever. They tell us to go to civil court. Unless you're Lucasfilms or Microsoft or someone like this, who's paying the money to run the government and to do the trade-offs, they get the laws enforced selectively for them. This is the nature of the 21st century. It is for the elites. It's no longer for you and I. And that's what's changed. Dramatically.
That's right. Dr. Nick Begich, stay there. EarthPulse.com. Powerful information straight ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, we have some of the most amazing news ever. This has gotten no attention. But a caller called in and pointed it out to us. We're going to go into Josh in a minute. We've got Dr. Nick Begich here with us. This is insane. At a college commencement, we'll put the article on screen, please. At a college commencement at commencement, Al Gore urges graduates to reclaim the integrity of American democracy. No, that's not the headline. He says, when asked about Trump, we need to exterminate him for ethical reasons. We're going to play the clip. One of the questioners, student says, isn't Trump like chemotherapy to kill the cancer of the swamp or whatever? He goes, no, it's like something you need to abort. So this is next level. You got this other professor we played earlier saying that we need to shoot to kill on the president. He had another reporter a few days ago put crosshairs on him and then removed it. This is the call to violence we continue to see. So here is Al Gore, the man that claimed he invented the internet decades after it was actually invented, the man that said that the oceans would have already flooded New York by 2013. Here is Al Gore making his really not veiled threat to abort the president. Here it is.
As one of his supporters put it on television, he said, the way I look at it, Donald Trump is chemotherapy for America. Well, in medicine and in science, some experiments are terminated early for ethical reasons.
Look at the politically correct cult they've created.
I don't know that that will be the case, and I do not predict it. But I do know that whether you are a Republican or a Democrat or an independent, the salvation of our democracy, for those who support Trump or oppose Trump or those who want other candidates or not, the salvation of our democracy is with the American people and most especially with your generation.
Now, we're going to have Dr. Nick Begich with us throughout the entire next hour. We're going to get specifically into the high-tech grid, the geoengineering, the 5G, the admissions it's causing massive cancer, and the big end game of this whole thing. So he'll be with us. We're taking your calls right now, and Dr. Nick Begich is riding shotgun with us. I'm about to go to Josh, who pointed this out to us. This is a sickening statement to the response of someone saying, again, well, Trump's like chemotherapy. I still think it's a bad analogy. He's more like vitamin C. And you see things turning around, as you said earlier, under Trump, and then the vitriol from the deep state as they get outed for all the crimes they've committed and all the illegal things they've done, they are really going into panic mode. And I can tell you this, Dr. Begich, from talking to the president quite a few times and knowing people that know him really, really well, he's not a fake when he likes churches and likes Christians. But he says it like this: I really like the energy. It really feels good. I like black churches. I like, you know, evangelical churches. I like people laying their hands on me. I can feel it. And so he likes energy. I mean, I don't want to be new agey about it, but the president is pro-life in that he doesn't want stagnation. He doesn't want us to not produce and move forward. He said in his inaugural speech, I want to unlock the secrets of the universe. I want to turn humanity loose. He said a few weeks ago, I want planetary victory for humanity, talking about North Korea. The globalists claim they want this big one world of love, but they're creating one world of discord and evil. Trump is the anti-New World Order guy in that he's just pragmatic and likes nice things. And he doesn't feel good when people are poor and under him. That makes him feel bad because I've studied Trump now. I understand what makes him tick. So he's the anti-austerity president. Does it mean he's perfect? No. And he's a throwback in some ways. But he is pro-human, and I think that's why they hate him. Dr. Begich.
Well, I think that's part of it, and the fact that, whether you like Donald Trump or not, he ran authentically. This is the difference. And I've said this to a lot of people, is what America wanted was authenticity. And yeah, I mean, in terms of character issues and all of that, yeah, we get it. But at the same time, we have a guy that is radically different, and I think we needed it. I think America needed a shock. And Donald Trump is that shock. And I think what he's done is reawaken in Americans an interest in participating on both sides. And now this is the challenge for this generation. It's not the challenge to participate. It's the challenge to do it in the spirit of the founding fathers, which is to have that lively debate, to have that focused debate that raises the temperature in the country, but the level of hate coming from the left and segments of the right is fundamentally wrong. And we need to recognize the respect our founding fathers had for divergent opinions, to the point of making it such a foundational part of the country, because we ought to be able to look at each other, not in a tolerant way, because I consider tolerance, that concept, actually a violent act. And let me explain that for a second. Violent to yourself because you withhold your own truth to be politically correct. Now, what I believe is something a little bit different. I think we should embrace the idea that we may find our opponent in a conversation's ideas repugnant, but we should embrace their right to have them and express them, and we should listen and be respectful.
And that's a classical liberal idea that built the country, not the modern authoritarian liberal. But when you have the big corporations, the big foreign banks, the communist Chinese at Davos saying, we'll crush America, the head of Twitter saying, we'll crush conservatives, which just means anybody they disagree with. I know you don't consider yourself a conservative. I consider myself just a common sense, pro-human Renaissance person, as you do as well. We're friends. We've been out to dinner many times. Over the last 20 years, we've known each other. And so we're on that real page there. The globalists are anti-Renaissance, and I think they realize that Trump is a pro-Renaissance guy, even in his own kind of strongman vein. And that's why I think at an energetic level, his energy is so different from theirs. That's why they're so horrified.
They are. And, I just went to my mom's 80th birthday this last weekend in Anchorage with a whole variety of people, from Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, Independents, and my family has lively discussion, believe me. And here's the thing. We have these discussions with my brothers and sisters, looking each other in the eye, lively, emotional, charged, but we are respectful. And when we leave, we embrace each other as brothers and sisters, the way this nation should, recognizing our differences, recognizing that the context...
No, I totally agree. What I'm saying is this whole constellation of corporate power and universities trying to break the back of free speech worldwide, I think it's going to backfire. What do you think?
I think so, too. In fact, I would say even more than that. It's an opportunity right now to begin to take it back. What they've sliced away from us, one bite at a time, it's time to get it back. And think about the internet right now and what's happening there. The idea of using the data against you to manipulate you, which is what is exactly happening by government and corporations. This data belongs to us. This is our digital doorway. This is the digital doorway into our homes in the 21st century. If our founding fathers were here today, they'd be fighting for protection of the new elites kicking in our doorways, kicking in our digital doorways.
And I know you've advised the EU on this, and they've even passed laws, which I think are good overall, but I see them being selectively enforced against small companies, not big ones. But these new EU laws, I know you advised the Parliament many times, are coming in telling big data that if we demand our data be destroyed or not used, they have to do it. But I don't see Google, Facebook, or Twitter. I mean, we're already complying with the EU rules here. I don't usually apply with stuff, but I'm complying with them because I think they're right. And I know you advised them on that.
Indeed we did. And this is almost 16 years ago. Now, I'd tell you something else on this, is I think it shouldn't be a situation of we opt in or opt out. I think it should be illegal for them to do it.
No, I agree, because they built the very architecture where the internet spies, period.
Yeah, I mean, where they just have no permission that they can get from us.
And let's explain something. I've had all these top engineers and hackers on. The way they built the web made it have Swiss cheese and not be secure. I've had William Benny, former head of the NSA, you name it on. They built the damn thing to be spied on, which makes it not work right. It should be built to be secure and privacy-based.
That's exactly right, which means we have to change it fundamentally, structurally from the ground up to not be a marketing and manipulation tool, but to truly be the international library.
And by the way, they've had Sean Parker of Facebook and all of them come out and say word for word what you said. It's to manipulate dopamine, that these things are mind control engines. We'll be back with Nick Begich in your calls. Stay with us. Listen, I love God. I'm a Christian, but I don't like the fake mainline churches, the way they interpret it all. When Pastor Rodney Howard-Browne was here the other day, I could just feel the spirit was so strong. I had tears in my eyes for like 30 minutes after the show with him when he prayed with me. And it's the same with Begich. I can feel his energy. It's the spirit. And it's we only see a very limited spectrum of what is. That's been proven scientifically now. And that's just this dimension. There's dimensions above and below. And I'm telling you, the more we go with our gut, which is connected to our brain and connected to all of our senses, it's way more powerful in our conscious mind. It knows. And that's why I knew instinctively Trump was good. I knew instinctively he would win. I knew because I always used to ignore my gut. The more I follow my gut, and of course you get into that with Earth Pulse, your book, the film, all of it. We carry those at InfoWarsStore.com. Get them at EarthPulse.com. But whatever you call this, they got all these fake New Age cults and fake Christian groups trying to hijack people that are already looking for God. And they try to misdirect it all, Dr. Begich. We'll take calls in the next segment. This one's short. But I'm telling you, the revolution of the soul and the body and the mind and humans next level, they have their fake counterfeit. The real thing's coming. We see it, and that's what the globalists are trying to block so desperately. I know you've trailblazed that. Can you speak to it?
Right. Absolutely. You know, this is my base perception of what we are. We're created in the image and likeness of God. That really means that we need to remember what we are and what our latent capacities are. And I don't think it's a case of evolving to anything. We're already there.
No, I mean, I agree. We're already there, but we're about to learn we're there.
Yes, and this is the exciting part. The thing that gets in the way of it is anxiety and fear. It stops you from reaching. I mean, this is biological. It's biophysics. It's the way it works. When you look at the human body, when you look at the human brain, in terms of what it's doing in real time against, say, the media or, say, social media. Facebook, as an example, just before the break, you were talking about the dopamine release that comes from each little charge. It was designed to make it addictive, and it worked. 50 minutes a day, 2 billion people across the planet spending one work shift a week doing social media, which is neither social nor legitimate media.
Wheel spinning.
It is a diversion from your humanity. It is the electronic priest put between you and the divinity that exists in another human being. This is what they're attacking. This is what they're dumbing
Just like they're
down.
attacking the relationship of men and women. How satanic is it to have Trudeau say, don't say mother or father, and oh, it's liberal, no more families. That trying to get between humans and our interface is the most evil thing.
It is. In fact, you know, the union between two people, a marriage, the union, represents the dissolving of the duality and the joining of one in an example of God on earth. That's what it's about. It's about coming together.
And by the way, Plato even knew that. And he's a top globalist to this day, but he was writing manuals to them for control. That's what they're trying to keep that power duo from coming together, dividing men and women.
That's, you know, when men and women come together, it fundamentally, read in every ancient work, this is fundamental. It's the recognition. When you look across the globe.
And it's absolute total power.
It is. And this is the difference. If we can remember, and we can remember the divinity in another, then we can tone the conversation down and be much more effective. It's in that voice that we can come into a discussion, into a debate that elevates, that lifts us as a population. This idea of division is a globalist concept to divide and conquer.
I agree. When we come back, I want to ask you about that, and then we'll go to calls. Kanye, how big is that? I mean, I agree with Scott Adams. It's like a hydrogen bomb of truth going off. And I want to then explain to me, because I really respect you. People think I'm angry and it's fear-based. It's not. I'm kind of like, wake up, things are happening. I've been very successful, but I do see it with some take it as fear. It's the opposite. I have so much energy and wanting to go after them that I see it as very positive, but it can come off as the other. So I want, with your nuanced understanding, Dr. Begich, to explain from your gravitas, your diagnosis of what's going on with InfoWars, whether it be good or bad. Dr. Nick Begich is here, earthpulse.com. Stay with us and please spread the live links. So I'm a very positive person because this philosophy is key, because they try to misrepresent in the media what I stand for. And they take little snippets of when I am really aggressive and upset as the sum total of what we do. But I've found that people are in a trance. In fact, medically they are with the TVs and the rest of it. And sometimes my grating voice, when it's in that mode, not on purpose, I just go into that, wakes people up. It gets them out of their comfort zone. Whereas NPR does it all very trance-like. Every one of their guests, everyone, NLP, the cadence, trust us, we're the experts. It's all calm, do this. But I find Dr. Nick Begich is in the middle of the road. He's positive. He's a professor, you name it. And he's laying it out lovingly, and it's kind of in between the two of an NPR voice versus Alex Jones. So he was kind of saying we should be respectful to people when we try to reach out to them and try to talk to them. Well, I agree. And a lot of times I am disarming with somebody that gets in my face. But sometimes I also tell them, wake up, get out of your trance. You're an idiot. It's time for you to understand, that you've been manipulated. So there's a time and place for everything. I don't calculate anything I do. I mean, it's all just, done either as a moronic thing or idiot savant, however you want to see it. But you can't argue with the results of what we've gotten. So I think it takes all kinds. But definitely trying to not get in a fight mode with somebody that disagrees with you is obviously the way to go, because they're never going to listen to you if you don't get out of it. But at the same time, I think it's all about times and places. We're going to go to some calls right now, but that's a nuanced issue. But clearly what you're doing versus what NPR is doing versus what I'm doing, how would you quantify those with a gestalt?
See, I look at it this way. I work with a lot of different people and a lot of different hosts over the years who are my friends, and they represent every kind of political persuasion. But what I love about everyone I work with is they come right out of the center of who they are. And when Alex Jones has something to say, it comes out of right the center of who you are. It's not filtered. It's not scripted. There's no teleprompters. There's none of this nonsense. It comes right out of the core of you.
So you're saying the key is, just like with Trump, just like Jerry Kushner said, we want genuineness. We want from the core. We want unfiltered. We want real.
Right. And the balance in that, this is I always have enjoyed over the last 20 years working with you, because when we go on the air, we have this different style, but it really complements the message that we're trying to get out there, which is put your energy in this life and do something. You can function in two worlds at once. You can function in this physical world and the spiritual aspects of who you are at the same time. The difference is, let that spiritual aspect of who you are start to push into this world a little differently, and then the world changes. And let me ask
you that question, because you're going to have the floor in the next 3 segments. I'm going to let you host, because I want you to go over all the real serious stuff that we're facing. You're covering positive stuff, and I promise to go to calls. But let me throw this out at you. I look at servants of the globalist and the people that are into the system who turn their will over, and it's spiritual because it's like they're dead suddenly. I've known people that have sold out, and then a year later, they're like zombies. So people think fighting for what's right is enslaving and work. It's addicting. You just get more discernment, more understanding. I mean, I don't want to brag. You know how it is yourself, all your connections. I mean, the whole world just opens up, and it's like, my God, I'm a super person compared to what I was 20 years ago, and I can't imagine what it's going to be like in 20 years. I can barely handle the amount of understanding I've got now, because here's the thing, doctor, 99% of the time, man, I'm dead on, and I know stuff before other people do. It's crazy, and I want to share this knowledge. The globalists are like a fallen form of what we're doing, where they have some advanced knowledge, but they try to hoard it, and they're obsessed with other people getting it, whereas you and I want to just spread it.
And this, again, I think this is what the world needs right now. That's one of the things I really hope that Trump continues to crack open the secrecy syndrome of the United States that's worked against the American people. I'm not talking about the national security issues that are legitimate, but under that guise has been hidden the entire efforts on the mind control issues, the idea of manipulation, the idea of hiding the truth nature of our political processes. And it hasn't mattered which administration's been in control in the past, Republicans and Democrats alike. I mean, think about the Southeast Asian policies revealed in the Pentagon Papers in the early 70s. Again, when my dad was in the Congress, what was happening then was the revelation that it's a rigged system. The national parties on both levels rigged it. What happened in the last election? The Republican Party put up their 16 best, their best elite establishment candidates, and Donald Trump beat them all and beat the best the Democrats could generate because it was about authenticity. Once again, you may not like certain character aspects, but there's no surprises. And I can say this, whatever his character flaws were, most of it has to do with his wife and him, not the public.
And hey, she's wild too. That's their business, man.
Yep. But I can say this about Donald Trump so far. We haven't heard about anything going on with interns in the Oval Office, and I'm glad to know that. And I don't think we're going to hear anything like that because I don't believe that's the nature of what he's doing in the presidency. I think he's there to shake the elite.
Oh, he is. I know people that know him well. He's 100% at work, and then then what he does in his own private time. Reportedly, that's not even going on now.
I don't think he has private time as president of the United States because I know what public service requires, and I've seen it in my entire life. True public servants give up everything to serve. Everything, their personal privacy.
By the way, we're not bragging ourselves, but take a Matt Drudge or you or I or anybody. We are serving for our families and everybody. This is real service here, folks, because let me tell you.
And it's expensive in terms of what you undertake. I mean, you and I both know it. I mean, you're beat up constantly. You go through this gyration every couple of years when you rise up on some issue, they want to hammer you down. And this is the nature of it. But we get up every day and we carry on because fundamentally, we believe that this thing is changing. It's changing right now as people engage the process and change the process because that's the opportunity that presents this generation. We'll either be free or slaves, and our generation decides. And the millennials coming up have been programmed, literally programmed by media with the intention to move this culture a different direction. I travel all over the world. And there's a cultural overlay in every single country I go to by the same elite players that are playing it out in the United States. It's no different around the world.
I promised to go to Josh and a few other callers here and Carlos and everybody. But I've got Dr. Bezgich here who's going to start hosting at least an hour a week. We're planning on launching more shows, going 20 hours a day live soon. I'm going to try to get him better equipment so he can start hosting with us and the amazing job he does. We're going to go to break here in a moment and come back. And then start getting into all this, but I promise to go to your calls. We'll do that. Then we'll talk about the control grid and then how to break out of it with the guy that first exposed it all, Dr. Nick Begich. Find his books, find his films, find incredible information at earthpulse.com. We also carry many of his books and films at InfoWarsStore.com. And I got so excited last hour covering all the news. I never plugged. And that's how we fund our operation. You got the network sponsors for them. You've got radio stations that have great sponsors. Please support them. But with us, 80% of the funding is you buying books, T-shirts, films, you name it. And we're really trying to expand in the face of all these attacks. Georgetown, George Soros, Hillary all suing us. The stuff's getting thrown out of court, but it costs money to fight it. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying, if you buy the products, they're great for you and your family, and then you checkmate the globalists. So a bunch of specials in today. Our fluoride-free toothpaste, fortified with colloidal silver and iodine for adults and children, and the mouthwash and the immune gargle is all 50% off. Body's Ultimate Turmeric Formula, it's incredible, 50% off. DNA Force Plus, 50% off. That all ends today. Those specials end today, InfoWarsStore.com. And Survival Shield X2 is 50% off with BioTrue Selenium. Paul Joseph Watson's hosting the 4th hour. Dr. Nick Begich is here to come on about the 5G networks, the control grids, all of it is now out in the news. I've got the most insane stuff where word for word what he predicted 20 years ago has now come true. It's incredible. We're going to get to that in a moment. I promise to take a few of these calls. Let's go ahead and talk to Josh in Oregon who called in to tell us about the bizarre Al Gore statement about aborting President Trump. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I heard this statement the other day. And I thought it was one of the most insane things that I've ever heard. I mean, you could imagine if a statement like that, was being made by Newt Gingrich, for example, about Hillary Clinton when she was president, or something along those lines. It's just you wouldn't be able to get away with it, and it shows the insanity of these criminals. I mean, you've got people like Brennan, who's coming out and threatening Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan, swamp rats themselves. So you really see them starting to turn on each other, which... I
forgot to cover that. Brennan comes out. He can't threaten the president because it doesn't work, telling him, shut your mouth. Now he's threatening them. And with what?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I know, exactly. I mean, this is a guy who, voted for the Communist Party in the 70s, and it's just insane. You got Loretta Lynch, who came out and said that we need to have blood in the streets. Andy McCabe said he's going to burn down the whole FBI. You got Clapper coming out and saying... You've
got the former deputy director of the CIA and then the FBI, brought over by Mueller, because Mueller's really CIA, confirmed that with high-level CIA who worked with him. And they brought them over, and they've got Mudd on TV saying we're going to kill Trump. These are excellent points you're making, Josh. God bless you. What do you make of this, Dr. Begich? I mean, before, I think it was bravado. I think they're really scared right now. And so I think we're at a point of maximum danger with the deep state. And you're really well-studied research. Obviously, you believe, and a lot of folks believe, your father's plane was brought down as a U.S. congressman. Your brother's been a senator. You've been on the inside of a lot of big things, advised world leaders. At a gut level, what do you think of the deep state and their threats of violence intensifying?
There is a panic party going on, and they are worried, and they're worried about all of it unraveling. And this guy, as president, they just don't have the control. They didn't spend 50 years building his career in politics. He came in as an outsider, as a renegade, actually.
And we get that, and we don't care if he went out with a porn star. Exactly. We didn't hire him for that. We hired him as a wrecking ball.
That's exactly it. And I think that's what the American people wanted. And if you stop and think about it for a minute, even on the Democratic side, if Hillary hadn't rigged the thing, and they did rig the thing at the national level, and the evidence has shown that.
Bernie probably would have beaten Trump.
He probably would have, because once again, people wanted radical change, and they didn't care what it looked like, how people screamed about. They just want to know they weren't part of the existing power structure that has worked against us. And all around the country, I don't care whether you're a liberal, a conservative, or an independent, you have this sense of dis-ease, of discomfort, of just something about to happen, because it is. It is. It's 5 minutes to midnight. And here's the big dimension of it. Mind control as a concept is so clearly administered in the simplest of forms right now. And it's been done through programming, through television, through media for decades. Now, what has changed is you can actually monitor in real time what goes on in a human brain when you're broadcasting or when you're sending specific signals. And this is what has happened. Is so an entire evolution in the technology has happened where you get what's called a frequency following response. FFR. It's taught in every master's level institution that teaches psychology. And what it says is external signals can influence the internal activity in the brain and cause your emotional state to be shifted. This is the simplest thing, the simplest aspect of it, well over 20 years old. The things that you're reading about in today's paper about implants, this was pioneered years and years ago. And people forget that over 200 people in the AG's office in Mexico were implanted years and years ago. And people said, oh, it's to stop corruption. No, it was to maintain control over those who were corrupted. The idea of control is really what it's about. And the closer and the more that you see that instituted, it is the signal to the elites that this is coming. Because ideally, it's a game of bankers. It always has been. Go back to the very beginning of banking in Sumeria, and it was a king issuing little fiat forms of currency, and you paid the interest back in silver. Then it came into the Middle Ages. We had that banking system evolve, fractional lending.
And let's be clear, under feudalism, whether it was ancient Japan, ancient China, ancient Africa, ancient England, ancient France, ancient Austrian, Hungarian areas, the Visigoths and Ostrogoths, You had to have the tally sticks or the shells or the coins, or you'd be killed if you were trading rabbits or trading. There was no barter allowed under feudalism. You always heard about, oh, you're hunting the king's deer or whatever. If you caught fish and didn't do some tax, you were killed. So they always lust after this total control system, and the China celebrating their new social credit score, barring people from flying or working or living who don't act exactly like they want. The left is saying, let's adopt this here to control conservatives. Don't they get that once the thing's in place, they can always change the rules however they want for total control?
Right, and you're familiar, and I know we've discussed it before, Zbigniew Brzezinski's book, Between Two Ages, which also laid this all out as an insider. You look at what he laid out in the early 70s, and it is happening right now.
Between Two Ages, the Technotronic era, he said it all. And I remember my dad, when I was like 12, he said, you want to know how stuff works, son? You think none dare call conspiracies powerful. He goes, read this. This is from one of their main architects. And he admitted that the government brings in the drugs to control it, the child porn they control, the mind control. They were going to have a computer technocracy to control us. And their argument is, oh, we control the child porn so it doesn't get out of hand. As if anybody even wants that crap. It's the government and the UN pushing NAMBLA. Sorry, I'm ranting. It's just Brzezinski was so damn evil.
Well, and here's the thing. When you look at what was constructed from his frame of thought, the Trilateral Commission, Foreign Affairs Journal, I actually read it every time it comes out. I'm on a subscription list because I want to know what the elite's plan is and where they're headed. I read a lot of publications that are out of areas that I consider like my area because I want to know. I want to know what's being planned, how it's being looked at, and how our lives are being constructed around us. We need to change the way we see the world for the world to change, and we need to see it more accurately. The mainstream is no longer a media outlet. Fake news, what a propaganda game. It is the fake news. It's all editorial. It is not information anymore that allows us to discern within a democratic republic what ought to shape our government. It's done the opposite turn. Freedom of the press was about an informed public so we could maintain control of this republic. And instead, we've got a propaganda machine operated by...
That's right, stay there. This is such an epic moment to be alive because Technotronic Era is another book of his I read. I can't even keep track of it anymore. That's what's crazy is they write books admitting all this. That's how I know it. And then they think you're so dumb, then they just deny it. It's insane. Stay with us, Dr. Nick Begich. All right, I know we got loaded phone lines, and I'll try to get to some of them here, and I apologize I haven't gotten a lot of you, but Nick Begich is here to actually cover the globalist control grid and actual science that's now all admitted, everything he said now admitted. And he's here with us right now. Just please don't forget that the Super Blue sale of all of our fluoride-free toothpaste products, 50% off, ends today. And the same thing for Body's Ultimate Turmeric Formula. The same thing for a bunch of other products that are 50% off. That's got to end on those because a lot of those are close to loss leaders. And if you do the auto ship, it's additional 10% off. Some of these, we're not even making any money. It takes a lot of money to run this operation, but people respond when we discount it. These are top-of-the-line supplements, great T-shirts, books, films, air filtration, water filtration. Whatever's the 360 win, we sell it. HARP, the update. Angels Still Don't Play This Harp, the book, the DVDs, the films, a bunch of his documentaries. We carry them at InfoWarsStore.com. Look at that, 100% reviews on power reviews of his films, of his books at InfoWarsStore.com. And, like, I get it. A lot of you already know all this stuff. You know more than we do. But your neighbors, your friends, your family don't. So get the film, watch it, donate to the local library, or go air it on Access TV, or, with my films, get them. That's what it's all about, is sharing it with one person. Don't underestimate the power of that. Get his book, get the film, Earth Pulse, also about what's happening. And his prediction that this big awakening would happen, he said this about 10, 12 years ago, right at this time. Begich is a smart guy. So let's let him get into the globalists first. All say they want to merge with Silicon. They believe humanity's ugly and done. They believe they're gods controlling our evolution. As you said, we're already here. If anything, we're going backwards now in their attempt to suppress us. So quantify who the good guys are, the bad guys are. Because we never talk about who are the spiders behind these minions that want to sell out humanity, these narcissistic, psychopathic control freaks. and then let's hit some of the main points here of just, it's all admitted. They're putting brain chips in troops. World governments here can't buy or sell if you're not a good globalist. Robot cars killing people all over. Al Gore saying exterminate. In mainstream news saying cell towers can manipulate your brain. I mean, this is just, it's all here. And instead of people going, oh, Nick Begich and Alex Jones were right, it's like, they're even worse. Screw them. It's just quite a paradigm, Dr. Begich. Go ahead.
You're right. That's exactly it. And, you know, when you think about the things the mainstream is now reporting, if you go back to a really important article, it was 1998, now 20 years old, and it was called The Mind Has No Firewalls. And it was a reprint from an article that was originally in a Russian journal called Orienteer, a military journal. And what it talked about, and was later absolutely supported in mainstream reports within the United States and academic studies, was the idea that any electromagnetic carrier, any system that can carry a signal, can carry a signal, a signal on it that allows you to manipulate the behavior of people within contact of that signal. Now, what can be used is the internet, telephone, radio networks, power grids, any of the things that essentially carry a part of the electromagnetic spectrum that you can manipulate. And so this is essentially what has happened. Now, the idea of being able to have a more targeted effect rather than affecting general populations, this is possible using cell phone systems that then are actually tagging a specific individual who can be linked into that system. So when you think of surveillance, don't just think about the idea of looking at what you're doing, but also beginning now, and has been for some time, influencing what you're doing. Now, when you look in real time at brain activity, for instance, in the gaming industry, when games are being evolved, Facebook and the way it operates, virtually all of these electronic interfaces are monitored because the objective of the inventors is to make you come back. And that means they want to trigger the portions of your brain associated with two things: drug addiction and orgasm, sexual activity, the things that will make your brain come back to those same sources to get that charge again, to get that dopamine release again, to get serotonin levels changed. All of these chemical changes occur by the energetic changes. This is called biophysics. It is what the science tells us.
Our brains are electrochemical. They admitted 20 years ago cell phones break the DNA. They admit they're doubling brain tumors.
Right. And again, this is not something new. There was a major initiative in this back in the early part of the current century. And we participated in that in the European Parliament in testifying about these technologies. They went on the basis of the book Earthrising the Revolution, which actually a lot of it made it into their record because they used it as a reference source because there were over 600 sources. It made it really easy for people to look at the subject matter. And that's been our hallmark all along. These aren't just arbitrary predictions. They're based on what's in the published literature and what we know today. We are indeed at that threshold.
So this is a system to program our brains while they're killing us. It's all admitted. But who's in control of it? Who's at the bottom of the rabbit hole?
I think it's a layer below most of the political leadership, quite frankly. I think most of the political leadership are rolled in and out as long as...
No, I agree. It's what Eisenhower said. He said the technological elite in control of the military-industrial complex.
And this is exactly who it is. So you look at who are those today? It's the Microsoft, it's the Googles, it's also the traditional industrialists of the past that represent the military-industrial complex, and the pharmaceutical academic.
And their argument is the Chinese are going to get all this. We've got to have better mind control. But of course, it's going to end up being used on everybody.
This is already happening. And it's the Chinese certainly have investigated all of this. It even comes through on what little comes out of China. But they're doing it on a level that is going to be the model, I would say.
That's right. They call it Skynet, the real name of the social score system that tracks everything you do and then controls you with it. They call it Skynet.
Yeah, and you're going to see the extension of this. I mean, I see the BRIC, you know, what's happening there between Russia, India, South Africa, Brazil, China. A lot of that is economic, but the economic overlay always has a social overlay. And what people know in the world today is 2 to 4 billion people are coming into the middle class in the next 20 years globally. And the elites want the same kind of gains, only now they really want the controls, because democratic republics do not serve the interest of elites. What countries need to do is take their sovereignty back, starting with their economics, starting with their currency.
Exactly, and say we want a new social contract admitting all this and not having a global race towards dehumanization, but a global race towards human empowerment.
That's right, and I hope that the secrecy syndrome that has dominated the planet begins to again be chiseled away by Donald Trump. I hope he has the courage to do it. It's long overdue. The public can handle the truth, and we need the truth to reform the system.
They crave it.
In a vacuum.
The public craves the truth.
Absolutely. That's what the whole thing has been the last 4 years, leading into the last presidential election and coming out of it. Everyone wants it. If you look at the mainstream even, where do they get their highest ratings? When those little bitty increments of something that actually matters manages to make it.
No, I agree. So let me ask you this question. The left used to be mean well that they were manipulated, just like the right is. But now they've weaponized the left so much, like piranhas out there. They almost seem like possessed. And it's the social media. It's the incremental fake bots that they think are real people telling them what to do. I mean, I don't want to get into like voodoo here, but it's like they've been possessed.
It is a type of mind control, quite frankly, and it's intended to do that. It's intended to incite your emotions around specific ideas that are being shoved into you based on your preferences that are easily discernible today. This is programming. We need a digital.
That's right. They get your number with the social media. They know you're 1,000 times beyond the Minnesota multiphasic. They know your absolute type, and then they know how to target it. It's unbelievable. We'll be right back as we battle for human consciousness with Dr. Nick Begich of EarthPulse.com. Stay with us. There is a planet 2/3 of the way out on the spiral arm of the Milky Way galaxy, orbiting a standard yellow sun. On it, an experiment's taking place. There are those that wish to understand the experiment. There are those who wish to know the secrets of the universe. But there are those who only wish to control their fellow humans because they crave total domination and don't want those discoveries of the universe to ever reach the general public, because the technocrats know the real developments, the real science, the real spark of genius comes from the common people. The elites have been inbred so long that they're mentally ill. They're just ruthless psychopaths on average, and that's why they say humanity's impure and fallen. They will perfect it with digital merger, but you must die physically before you're uploaded into it. I predicted that 20 years ago. Now it's been announced. And I can see in the future when people will commit suicide rather than be taken to the Oneness Center, where you'll be plugged in and your brain downloaded, they claim, into a digital second dimension. I see that. That's not in the books. I see that. That's the future we're going to face, is people running and hiding so that they not be picked up and drug off to be uploaded into the beautiful matrix. And we actually know that's their plan, because Arthur C. Clarke was a big Illuminist, and he wrote Childhood's End. And Begich, let's just be honest about this. I don't get into UFOs. I don't get into aliens. None of that can be proven. But if you look at how globalists operate and the way they behave and the things they do and how they hate humanity, like the devil, kill, steal, and destroy, the Bible warns us about, and the world government coming in, all the things, it's like, wow, who are the good guys that gave us this warning? Or are bad guys using it as an operating manual of evil? I think it's the first, not the second. But just as a scientist, I know you don't speculate. You go off patents and proof and documents. That's how they can never go after you. But there's just something so anti-human and so uncool about this. That's why I frantically fight it, because it's beyond psychopathic. There's something off-world about it.
You know, a lot of it is, again, about maintaining existing power structures. The fact that we have very advanced technologies on the planet today, some are being, you know, discussed lightly. You see, you know, and that's been our work in the past 25 years, is really looking at those trends, and they announce things. You know, they kind of say, well, let's see what happens. How does the public relate? When you think about intellect and what it is and how it actually functions, what they have learned is that the human being as a creative force is way, way more than anyone expected. You know, the mind effects research done by the Central Intelligence Agency and others from the 1950s forward, the surprise for them wasn't the idea that they could create Manchurian candidates, this kind of a mindset. If you look at the work of Estabrooks, you'll see plenty on that. But the real thing that they discovered was that all of us have these latent human capabilities that the military has tagged anomalous human capabilities, which we used to call extrasensory perceptions. But there's many other names for
and
these.
it's been totally documented, so the system's made the decision to suppress everyone with the fluoride and to try to suppress it because the elites don't control it and they don't even have it. If they had it, they'd join humanity. So it's like the elites think they're elite. No, they're cancer. They're malfunctioning. If they had it, they would just join humanity. They would stop it.
Right. Now, when you want to talk about...
But is that accurate? Is that accurate from your perspective?
It is, and it's a partnership between the elites of business, governments, and quite frankly, religion has been the servant.
Totally co-opted. When I go into a mainline Christian church, it feels the most satanic place you could be because it's been captured.
Well, and if you even read the scripture, it says at the end of the age, there'll be a form of godliness, but deny the inner power of it. And it's the inner power of it that we need right now in terms of what is happening. And that's just a remembrance of what we are. We've been reminded. And, you know, one of the things I've talked about on your program before is traumatic events and what they trigger. And think about this as a trauma. Think about the figure of Christ on a cross as a human being and divine at the same time, experiencing this great trauma and crying out, "Why have you forsaken me?" And think about this. This is where humanity is, where all of us are at this moment, is we can ask for that transfiguration of what we are and recognize what we were created to be.
But God's free will and won't do it unless we open the door.
We have to take a step forward in what we believe to be right and true and do it from the place that you are. I'm not saying believe like me or change into this or that. I'm saying where you are right now, begin to meet yourself again. Recognize the divinity in you so you can recognize the divinity.
Because we statistically know mainstream media, Facebook, all of it lowers our IQ, sterilizes us, makes us depressed, and kills us, and it's designed to do it. So we know this is from bad people. They didn't just build something that was accidentally bad. They built something meant to hurt us.
It was meant to do exactly what it's doing, capture our time, which is the essence of our life. You know, everyone I know that has experienced death, and I know a lot of people in the last few years, and I can tell you, in their last weeks, their last days, it's not about how much money you made. It's not about another day at the office. It's about people, relationships, the divinity in each of us that matters. And this is what
and the way they'll talk about their lives and open up and how smart they are, and they're only now realizing the power they had all along, and it was all blocked.
It was all blocked, usually by fears that never materialized. Think about the things we feared in life. And I mentioned this before on a segment. It was one of the best segments I think I've ever done with your team, Alex. And I mentioned my father's disappearance and what a trauma that was. He just disappeared off the face of the earth. I was 14 years old. And it was traumatic, I can tell you. My mom was 30.
Anti-establishment congressman just disappears.
Yep. And, you know, my mom had 6 kids. She was 34 years old. The youngest was 4. The oldest was 14. And I can tell you, it was traumatic, but at the same time, it presented for me an opportunity to make different choices. And it was the single greatest gift my father ever gave me, because in that trauma, it changed me. It altered me. It changed my course in life because I began to make different choices, and I learned at a very young age, at 13 and 14, that the value of life was the time and how you spent your time and how you moved into the world from that place. And I think that's all of us.
And if you read the Jade Helm documents, it says we're worried about intelligent, focused, powerful, active, there's an exact term they use, empowered individuals. And that's what the Pentagon, under their directive, I'm not saying they're bad, but people directing them, are worried about interesting, empowered individuals who have their own fount.
Right, because you can't restrict it. You know, the truth comes out of you. This is why I am more interested in the truth being told than the manner of its delivery, because then I at least know it's coming from the heart and it's coming from the head. And when you combine those two, now you have something. The elite only work from here, but they want to manipulate you here. This is
I was about to say, they think we're weak because they have heart. They don't understand that the deeper mind and soul connects to the heart and the gut and drives us. That's the real brain. They're missing that. They don't even know that's the advanced intelligence.
Right. And, you know, the physics even tells us that we're co-creators in this reality. I mean, the fact is that the observer, you and I, decide whether something becomes a particle, a piece of matter, or a wave of energy. Wow. Wow. That speaks to our
We can conceive it in the higher dimension and then manifest it. If that isn't God, nothing is.
Yeah, and it starts in the heart and mind, and then we speak it with our words, and we begin to construct reality. That is how it works. We do it in our families. We do it in
just like Genesis. God saw it, saw the void, spoke it, thought it spoke it, it was.
And it was. And, you know, the thing is, begin to speak your own personal truth. Find that truth and speak that truth. And as you learn where you're erred or where you're correct, amplify that and change the error in our thinking. And that means a different approach. And take control of your thinking and your heart back. Turn off the mainstream news.
That's right. Don't let them have your heart, your mind, your soul. Give that to God. And then God isn't a slave master. God will then turn you loose who you really are.
The only thing I would say on that, ask for grace, because the journey to wisdom otherwise is a painful one. So ask for grace in all of it, and that's where the change begins. And you know what? We can make a difference. We're seeing it happening. We can try and do it with a kinder heart and a more informed head. And then we claim our birthright back, and then we march into a different kind of war, an info war that starts from within.
Wow. 5 more minutes with Dr. Nick Begich. He was powerful 20 years ago, but it's like he kind of disappeared into the wilderness for a few years. Like now he's like come back, like Obi-Wan Kenobi here with us. But everybody knows the truth when they hear it. We'll be back. And then Paul Watson's coming up. Please spread all the live links and promote the local stations. Well, Dr. Nick Begich has been on fire today, and I was just looking at this Daily Mail article and Business Insider, and there's another article out of Popular Mechanics, Popular Science. And it gets into 1974, and the document was finally collated in 1977. That's 44 years ago, the year I was born. And in the diagrams, what's being targeted is a woman. And I continually see this, and I'm not saying this to patronize women, like, oh, you're the victim. Own that. Be a victim. No, be victorious, realizing that most of the propaganda, most of the advertising, most of the chemicals, most of the weapons are targeting women. Now, the whole fluoride and mercury thing targets men as well, but the whole point is it's targeting women. Dr. Begich, in closing, powerful interview. It just gets more and more powerful having you on. You've been not vindicated, because you were always vindicated, but you've really been proven right in all your research now. Why are they coming out in the open now? Why are they suddenly gone from denying it all to putting it out? I think it's because they tried to cover it up, but people did research and that backfired on them. So now they're trying to hide it in plain view and go, okay, we're putting chips in troops' heads and we're going to end the family and you're all going to die. It's the best for the earth. Okay, big deal. Let's move along. I mean, I think that's what they're trying.
Well, and they're again, it's a conditioning process. You know, now they're talking about, like, for instance, with veterans, you know, because of post-traumatic stress syndrome, they're saying, hey, we might be able to erase these memories. And some people think that's a great idea, but what else are they going to erase, for God's sake? And
yeah, that's what electroshock does.
But when you start to precision remove a memory set, so maybe we have our men and women in the service engage in some grossly illegal activity, and then we just wipe their memories. So, you know,
they're actually working on that. You're turning them into robots.
That's exactly it. And this is the difference. The elites look at us as biological machines that are designed to be manipulated. They do not see us as spiritual beings occupying a physical form. This is the difference.
They're attempting to steal our consciousness, just like made in the image of God. We're not God, but we're given consciousness and free will, and we're able to create like a baby finger painting towards a stairway to something greater. We're being given the potential to go to the next level by the Creator, because obviously God would then give other creatures opportunity to ascend.
And it's about coming back. I mean, that's what the big message has always been about, coming back to the essence of what we are. And I think also another model of the universe is a holographic universe, where we as individuals contain some essence of the whole. I think this is what is really meant by those ancient scriptures, that we are part of that.
Oh, that's another question. I got to hold you over because Paul's taking over, or just a minute or two. What about all the head of like major banks and globalists are going, it's all holographic, it's all fake, but they're not agreeing with us. They're saying it's all fake, give up. That's like Super Deluxe's thing from Time Warner. It's just give up, it's all fake anyways. No, it's all real. They're trying to project the hologram. Explain that.
Right. And to explain it, and also to restrict again, to make us feel like we have no self-determination, and we do. It's the greatest gift that we have at all, that we get to choose. We get to choose right now what we do, and in the next second what we do. And the power is in making choices, not sitting idly by and accepting.
It's like a video game for eternity, and they don't want you to know there's other levels.
That's exactly it. And you don't even have to go anywhere to find them. You're standing in them. It's about recognizing, remembering again, and having confidence in who you are and what you are, and not responding.
That's another subject. Everyone has this essence, if they're awake, of how old we are. I mean, that's a whole other debate. Come back next week for the full hour. Host a show this week. We love you, Dr. Begich. You're amazing. EarthPulse.com.
Thanks for having me.
Wow. Yeah, I feel humanity and our destiny rising. On the other side, from London, England, Paul Watson's all teed up and ready to go. Please help us spread the word of all the local stations and the transmission.
We are live. It is the May 22nd, edition of the Alex Jones Show, 4th hour, and huge headline just went up on Infowars.com, literally posted 1 minute ago. This is the back-end data from Reuters polling. No other news organization has reported on this, not even Reuters. It's in their back end, but they're not reporting on it as of yet. Headline, huge. Republicans now 6 points ahead in congressional poll. Blue wave turns into a drought. Polling by Reuters shows that Republicans are now 6 points ahead of Democrats in the race for the U.S. Congress. A remarkable turnaround, given that they were once as much as 16 points behind. And that was as recently as December, where in another CNN poll, Democrats were 16 points ahead. Now, according to the latest figures from Reuters, in which registered voters were asked, if the election for U.S. Congress were held today, would you vote for the Democratic candidate or the Republican candidate in your district where you live? The GOP comes out on top. 40.7% of respondents said they would vote for a Republican, with 34.5% saying they would vote for a Democrat. Now, if you go right to the end of that image on the right-hand side, you'll see that the lines have crossed. In the past week, the Democrats have sunk and the Republicans have taken over. The lines have crisscrossed for basically the first time since the 2016 election. Absolutely incredible polling figures. The Dilbert creator, Scott Adams, offers his wry commentary on the numbers. He says, on the plus side, Democrats still have 100% support from MS-13 and Iran. And, of course, from Palestinian terrorists, no doubt. But that's the very argument, isn't it? Nancy Pelosi, the lot of them, they threw their lot behind MS-13. Animals, who are animals. By the way, today, an MS-13 gang member who's literally nicknamed the Animal has been charged with murder, convicted 40 years in jail for murdering a 15-year-old boy. Nancy Pelosi was unavailable for comment whether he had a spark of divinity. We don't know yet. We're still waiting for word from Pelosi. But that's exactly it, isn't it? They've plummeted, they've cratered, they've collapsed. And now in a generic poll for the US Congress, Republicans are more than 6 points ahead, which is marginally, I think, outside the margin of error. Of course, we had a CNN poll, I think it was last week, where the margin of error had become so close that it was basically a toss-up, again, after Democrats being 16 points ahead as recently as December. Now Republicans are 6+ points ahead, according to the latest figures out of Reuters. And now it's not just the MS-13 situation, the Iran situation. It's obviously because of the economy. Nearly 2 out of 3 Americans polled by CBS this week say the economy is either very good or somewhat good. And that's what it's all about. That's going to be the primary issue as we move towards the midterms. Republicans now are whopping, given that how far they were behind, 6 points ahead of Democrats in this congressional poll. Absolutely huge. I'm going to send that article to Drudge in the next break here and see if he'll link to that, because, again, you'll only find it on InfoWars as of right now. Talking of ratings and polls, CNN's Jake Tapper has basically lost 32% of his audience in 1 year. This is out of Breitbart. CNN's Jake Tapper has lost nearly a third of his audience. Throughout all of May last year, CNN's Jake Tapper averaged 1.091 million total viewers and 304,000 viewers in the advertiser-coveted 25 to 54 age demo, which is, by the way, is the predominant demo of my YouTube channel that CNN's tried to shut down the Alex Jones channel. So far this year, though, through the 16th of May, those numbers have cratered by nearly a third. Now, bear in mind that CNN as a whole has also lost 30% of its audience in the past year. Tapper's demo viewers have sunk to an average of just 206,000, a 32% decline. His total viewers collapsed to just 785,000, 28% fall. Now, that was according to CNN's own press release. As of last year, he's lost 32% from May 2017 to May 2018. Tapper is now in last place when compared to Fox News and even MSNBC. So you see, what's happened is the Trump derangement syndrome market, which was, you know, let's be honest, a fire last year, this time last year, everybody was all into their Trump derangement syndrome on the left. As that kind of created an interest, as every new headline, every new drama, every new bombshell didn't lead to the impeachment of Donald Trump, as they all foolishly thought it would, people began to get jaded. So that coalesced basically into MSNBC, obviously the most hysterical left-wing network on the air, although CNN's running it pretty close. So MSNBC is still not doing too bad, but CNN has plummeted. Of course, that ties into how Trump's basically declared war on them, how they've become the totem pole of left-wing anti-Trump hysteria. Article continues. Tapper's rating woes are in part tied to the fake news albatross. That is the far left CNN. CNN's well-documented and ongoing credibility problems have devastated the anti-Trump channel's ratings, which have already collapsed by some 30% this month. Nevertheless, Tapper has suffered from some credibility scandals of his own, including his self-destructive refusal to separate himself from the sinking ship that is CNN. Because, of course, before he joined CNN, Jake Tapper was seen as, you know, somewhat of a centrist. He did a lot of great work on the whole surveillance issue back during the Edward Snowden days when he worked for ABC News. So Jake Tapper had this kind of perceived credibility, even though he was within the mainstream media. He was seen as something of an outlier, not part of the establishment. Since the 2016 election, where, of course, he was tied in to the Clinton campaign quite intimately, going to the dinners, going to the behind-the-scenes events. Now he's basically joined the chorus of Trump derangement syndrome on CNN, and it's cost him in viewing figures. But MSNBC, as this article points out, is pummeling CNN. Reads, MSNBC might be every bit as dedicated to the left-wing cause as CNN, but with hosts like Rachel Maddow, Chris Matthews, Ari Melber, Chris Hayes, and Joy Reid, MSNBC is at least interesting, mainly because several of those people are completely out of their gourd. Joy Reid in particular, and of course Rachel Maddow. And at times will even surprise you. CNN is as humorless, programmed, and pedantic as a day spent at a socialist summer camp. Not only that, it has, again, the most virulent Trump derangement syndrome imaginable. There was a story today up on the Drudge Report where it was, I think it was a Harvard professor, headline Harvard professor, Lawrence Tribe warns Dems pushing Trump impeachment, you have to shoot to kill. Now, bearing in mind this arrived a few days after some anti-Trump lunatic who was shouting anti-Trump slogans tried to shoot up a hotel in Florida. You remember that story. Now he's been charged. It also comes less than a year after James T. Hodgkinson, a far-left Bernie Sanders supporter, tried to massacre a large group of congressional lawmakers at a baseball practice. Now we have a Harvard law professor talking within the context of impeaching Trump, but saying, quote, if you're going to shoot him, you have to shoot to kill. Now, is that really the kind of rhetoric that we need, given these hyper-partisan times, given the fact that we've had fringe extremists on both the left and the right actually try to shoot to kill on a regular basis? Are those words appropriate for CNN? Well, he hasn't come out and clarified it. Obviously, he was talking about the context of impeaching Trump. He's not literally talking about shooting to kill Trump. But again, are those words really appropriate given the hyper-partisan, fringe extremist hysteria times that we live in? Probably not. Probably not. But he wasn't called out for it on CNN. We're live, fourth hour of the Alex Jones Show. Before we go to a clip from Nigel Farage, who basically had the opportunity to grill Mark Zuckerberg in the European Parliament today, although he waited until the end to answer all the questions, so there was no back and forth. It was all staged. But we're going to get to that clip in a second. First, I want to tell you about some of the great products at InfoWarsStore.com because we need your support now more than ever. We've got all Super Blue fluoride-free products at a massive 50% off retail price at InfoWarsStore.com for a limited time. Again, I say it every time. You're going to buy these products anyway, so why not get them from us, support the network, and get great quality fluoride-free products, including the classic fan favorite, which is the toothpaste Super Blue fluoride-free for a happier, healthier smile experience, nano silver and iodine at 50% off. And for those looking for a sweeter, healthier toothpaste, Super Blue fluoride-free toothpaste bubblegum flavor is the perfect pick, and that's also at 50% off. Again, you can go and read those excellent independent reviews all on the website and take advantage of that massive discount. Featuring natural oils and ingredients used since Aboriginal and biblical times, Super Blue mouthwash will help supercharge your oral health for minty, fresh breath and round out your daily routine. So we have all the essential products for dental hygiene, as well as Super Blue Silver Immune Gargle, all at 50% off right now, including free shipping at InfoWarsStore.com. I mean, toothpaste doesn't really go out of date, does it? It lasts for years. You could stock up on this, save an absolute ton of money with this 50% discount, and support this network. This special will only be available for a limited time, but it is available right now at InfoWarsStore.com. Please go and support us by getting the products today. Now, Nigel Farage had the opportunity, and I helped with a bit of the research for this behind the scenes, to grill Mark Zuckerberg about Facebook's algorithmic censorship of conservative content. Now, we know across the board that some conservative commentators, some conservative news outlets on Facebook have been completely decimated by this algorithmic change, which happened basically at the end of January. In 1 week alone, I talked about this last time I was on the show, I lost 80% shares on Facebook engagement in 1 week alone. So they probably dialed it up even further now since February. The studies show that, I think Farage talks about an average of a 25% drop amongst conservative commentators and news outlets on Facebook. He had the opportunity to ask Zuckerberg about it today. We've got the clip, and here it is.
Okay, I'll start again. Mr. Zuckerberg, I'm the largest user of Facebook in all the EU institutions in terms of followers, in terms of engagement, so I'm your best client here in the room. I've no idea of the value of that, but I'm pleased to see you, as I hope you are me. The one slight problem I have, and I'm watching very carefully the testimony that you gave on Capitol Hill. Time and again, people asked you, is this genuinely a neutral political platform? And you come up with the same line again and again. It's well crafted. You say that Facebook is a platform for all ideas. Now, historically, of course, it's true that through Facebook and other forms of social media, there is no way that Brexit or Trump or the Italian elections could ever possibly have happened. It was social media that allowed people to get round the back of mainstream media. Now, perhaps you're horrified by this creation of yours and what it's led to. I don't know. But what is absolutely true is that since January of this year, you've changed your modus operandi, you've changed your algorithms, and it has led directly to a very substantial drop in views and engagements for those that have got right of centre political opinions. The facts are very clear. Just look at President Trump's numbers on a much smaller scale. Look at mine. Look at thousands of other conservative commentators. And on average, we're down about 25% over the course of this year. And, that's happening on a platform for all ideas. I'm not talking here, Mr. Zuckerberg, about extremism. I'm not talking about encouraging violence. I'm not talking about hatred of anybody. I'm talking about people who have majority mainstream opinions. And frankly, I feel what interests me is who decides what is acceptable. Who are these people you referred to earlier, these third-party fact-checkers? Who are these people? I mean, why is there no transparency in this process at all? I'm not generally somebody that calls for legislation on the international stage, but I'm beginning to wonder whether we need a social media Bill of Rights to basically protect free speech. And I'm asking you today very, very clearly that would you accept that today Facebook is not a platform for all ideas that is operated impartially?
So that was Nigel Farage basically grilling Mark Zuckerberg, the Facebook CEO, in the European Parliament today. He took all the questions in a row. A very, very bizarre way of doing it. Obviously designed so there would be no back and forth whatsoever between the people asking the questions and Zuckerberg himself. For half of it, somebody else was speaking on his behalf. So then he waited until the end of all the questions before answering any of them. Now, I haven't seen his response in full, but from what people have said, it's just the usual denial that there's any, deliberate targeting of conservatives. Basically him saying, that the algorithm change was simply to boost trustworthy websites. The trustworthy websites just happen to be all establishment media websites, just by coincidence, of course. We had this headline out of InfoWars back in January. Facebook employee says new trust algorithm will prevent InfoWars and Breitbart gaming the system. Literally 1 week later, we were decimated along with a lot of other conservative pages in terms of engagement, in terms of shares on Facebook. That happened at the end of January. Breitbart reported 1st of May. Facebook is now ranking news organizations based on trustworthiness. So they take a URL and they relegate it before you even post it, basically, which is why InfoWars articles I used to share on Facebook would get as many shares, depending on the interest in the article in the subject, as any other link I would post on Facebook. Now, I mean, I could post an InfoWars link and it'll get 10, 15 shares. Bearing in mind, on my 2 profiles alone, it's a potential audience of 1 million people. You can still post something else. You can post a meme on Facebook. Obviously, they've got no way of tracking that yet as to the political bias of the meme or whatever. And that'll get 3, 4, 5, 10,000 shares. So they've entered URLs into some kind of flagging database. Infowars.com is one of them, definitely. They've also got these fake fact checkers. It's Snopes.com. It's the usual suspects, been proven over and over again to be vehemently partisan. They're not independent. They're not impartial. This is a deliberate attempt to influence people in their voting habits as we approach the midterms. It's very transparently so. This is the Alex Jones Show live, Infowars.com. We'll be back. We are back. It is the fourth hour of the Alex Jones Show. And now we're going to turn our attention to Europe, which is, of course, the example that America does not want to follow in many ways. We've had some good news in Europe over the past few months. Obviously, the rise of AfD in Germany and the Italian election. It looks like they've finally sorted out an agreement to form a government between the populist Five Star Movement and the Northern League Party, which is, of course, the stuff of nightmares for the EU, because eventually they want to move towards abolishing the euro, basically phasing out of the European Union altogether, and they want to control mass immigration, which is also a big problem, of course, in Sweden, my favorite country, where the Sweden Democrats, the anti-mass migration party, are now polling first in advance of their general election, which is coming up in September this year, not too far away. Breitbart had a headline a few days ago. New poll shows populist Sweden Democrats tied for first ahead of election. Now, this is big because they've been kind of in third place, moving back and forward between second and third place for basically around a year or more now. But a new poll has shown a surge in support for the anti-mass migration Sweden Democrats, which are now tied with the ruling Social Democrat Party ahead of this year's national election. The poll puts the populist anti-mass migration party at 23%, tied with the Social Democrats for first place. So that is huge. And why is that happening? Well, it's happening because of stories like this. Headline up on Infowars.com. Sweden. Police tell women to not go out late to avoid being raped. I've spoken many times about the skyrocketing rape figures, sexual assault figures in Sweden. Now, apparently, the solution to that is to not stop the importation of hundreds of thousands and millions of migrants that tend to have problems in the ways in which they view and treat women. No, the solution is to tell women just to not leave their homes. Bravo, bravo. Police in Sweden are telling women to not go out late to avoid being raped in a damning indictment of how the country is putting their own citizens at risk in favor of pursuing mass migration policies. So they had 2 more attempted rapes over the weekend in Östersund, and that prompted police investigator Sus Braunerhelm to tell Swedish radio that women should be vigilant and, quote, preferably do not go out late. That's the solution to not being raped, is to not go out at night. Of course, it bears similarities to what the mayor of Cologne told German women back in 2016 after the mass molestation of German women on New Year's Eve 2015. You remember that, carried out by predominantly, almost exclusively, even though barely any of them were convicted for it, Muslim migrants. She told potential victims, she told women to keep potential rapists at arm's length, was completely crucified, and rightly so, in the media for doing so. Again, despite the fact that those rapists, hardly any of them actually got prosecuted. Well, as soon as these comments from the Swedish police investigator telling women to not go out late at night to avoid being assaulted began to attract controversy, they had to dial it back. Police District Manager Max Olsson asserted that her comments did not stand and that authorities were not encouraging women to avoid going out late at night. That turnaround came about 24 hours later, only after the initial comments began to receive publicity. So yeah, it was obviously an attempt to quell public anger, because Swedish women are already afraid of going out at night. They're already imposing curfews on themselves. A 2016 poll found that almost half of Swedish women were afraid to go out at night alone. In fact, I think it was the more recent poll which found that even more were afraid to go out alone, even in the day. Of course, we had Swedish music festivals throughout 2016, throughout 2017, numerous rapes, numerous sexual assaults, in some cases literally just men pinning down women in the center of a field in front of a stage at a music festival and just outright raping them, just in the middle of the entire group of people. Absolutely shocking. So what was the solution? To cancel all the music festivals in 2018. Sweden's largest music festival in the summer of 2018 was cancelled because they just said, we just can't get a handle on this. Rape, sexual assaults, molestation of women, they just cancelled the event. A study by Aftonbladet, which is by no means a right-wing news outlet, found that 88% of gang rapists in the Scandinavian country over the last 6 years had a migrant background. Now, bearing in mind, if you're not a newspaper, a national newspaper in Sweden, you can't even talk about these statistics on social media because you risk being arrested and prosecuted for hate crimes. And we're going to talk more about that probably in the next segment now, but they're called hate facts. Literally, Swedish citizens can't cite statistics anymore without being told that they're carrying out an act of hate speech. Newspapers can do it, and they occasionally do. But as a private citizen, you put yourself at risk of arrest and jail time if you point out statistics that are in the government's own reports. That's how bad it is in Sweden right now. They literally have a taxpayer-funded group. It's called the Net Hate Examiner Group, funded by taxpayers, that goes out to hunt thought criminals on the internet in Sweden to flag their comments to the authorities so they're prosecuted, fined, and in some instances thrown in prison. Literally a taxpayer-funded group that does that in Sweden now. I mean, we've got equivalents of it in the United States, in Britain, Hope Not Hate. But as far as I know, they're at least not taxpayer-funded so far. Absolutely shocking situation. People always wonder, how do these comments get flagged up? You know, if somebody's leaving an obscure comment on a Facebook group that doesn't really have a lot of members, how are these comments coming to light? Well, there's a taxpayer-funded group that literally is given hundreds of thousands of dollars to hunt these thought criminals down for stating statistical facts. A private study, the article continues, of 4,142 rulings regarding sex-related crimes passed by 40 Swedish courts between 2012 and 2014 found that 95.6% of rapes were committed by men of foreign descent. 2 out of 3 rapes with aggravating circumstances were committed by newly arrived migrants or approved asylum seekers. Official crime statistics show in Sweden that reported rapes have increased 34% in the last 10 years. And the left and Snopes and all these liars always come out and say, oh, no, that's because they changed the definition of rape. No, BS. That is not true. It's true that they changed it, but then there's rape stats continued to rise after that change was made. So no, you can't blame it all on them changing the definition of what rape, of what sexual assault was, because it continued to go up after that. And the figures prove that. The figures that Swedish citizens can't even talk about on the internet because they risk being arrested, they risk being interrogated. So this is all taking place. They're telling women to not go out late at night. Again, an absolute non-solution, absolutely ludicrous and pathetic. Meanwhile, the real criminals are being kept under thumb by the Swedish authorities. This is out of Sputnik. Swedish journalist probed for hate speech over Sharia-mocking cartoons. The former editor-in-chief of the Sweden Democrats magazine has been interrogated. This is what they like to do. They literally just turn up and interrogate people who are critical of mass immigration. Interrogated by authorities after being reported to the police by the Net Hate Examiner Group, the taxpayer-funded group that literally hunts down thought criminals in Sweden. The reason is 2 satirical drawings about Islamism he published on Facebook. So literally siding with the same ideological motivation as the Charlie Hebdo Islamist killers by saying, no, we will not tolerate satirical cartoons about Islam. Literally faces potential fines, prison time, interrogated by the police for drawing some cartoons which satirized a belief system, which is not a race, which is not an ethnicity. Swedish women being told they can't go out late at night because they can't get a handle on these rapist criminals. Oh, but if you draw a cartoon which makes fun of Islam, then you're going to be interrogated. Ludicrous. This is the Alex Jones Show Live. We'll be back, Infowars.com. We are back live on the Alex Jones Show. Going to get into some more news here in a second, but I want to tell you first about another of the great specials we have available right now at InfoWarsStore.com. It is Bodies, and again, it is at 50% off. That is huge. It's the ultimate turmeric formula. It's the one I take, personally recommend. Used as a medicinal herb for thousands of years, turmeric is one of the most studied ingredients known today. After a long search for the perfect turmeric formula, we finally gotten enough Bodies back in stock to provide to our fellow InfoWarriors with 50% off. This is the 60-day supply for just $29.95, a massive 50% saving. Look at those independent reviews, 4.9 out of 5. Those trusted independent reviews. Bodies offers joint support, mobility support, flexibility support, inflammation support, and immune support. Has the powerful ingredients, powerful antioxidants. And we've decided to pair it with other powerful ingredients, including 5 different herbs and extracts. And as I've said before, we're not selling it on this basis, but if you go and research, for example, studies in depression where they compare turmeric, treating people with turmeric and treating people with Prozac, turmeric wins peer-reviewed studies. So this is a mood enhancer. We're not selling it on that basis, but you can go and research that for yourself if you're interested in learning about how they've used this to treat depression. It is Bodies. It is 50% off right now at InfoWarsStore.com. And you can also select the auto ship option and get another 10% discount additionally on top of that. And of course, that means you don't have to continue remembering to reorder. It makes it convenient and you save even more money. Bodies from InfoWars Live, 50% off right now at InfoWarsStore.com. Please support this network. Now, before the break, I was talking about Sweden. They've got a big election coming up in September. Support for the anti-mass migration Sweden Democrats is now basically at the point where they're tied with the ruling party after being in 3rd place as little as a few months ago. And, you know, I wonder why. Gee, I wonder why. We've got a situation where people in Sweden can barely even talk about statistics, can barely even talk about what they're witnessing on their own streets without putting themselves at risk of being interrogated, fined, and in some cases even imprisoned. Meanwhile, they're telling women not to go out late at night to avoid being raped. They're interrogating and potentially imprisoning journalists for drawing cartoons that make fun of Islam. And then we have this story up on Infowars.com. Hate facts. Swedish man faces 2 years in prison for saying Somalis have low IQ. A man in Sweden faces up to 2 years in prison over a Facebook post in which he said Somalis typically have low IQs, despite being technically correct. So again, who's found him? Who's uncovered this dangerous thought criminal? Well, it's obviously the taxpayer-funded Net Hate Examiner Group, because this comment was made in September last year, and they've just caught him. They've caught that dangerous thought criminal. You know, rape, sexual assaults, they may be up 34%. Violent crime may be through the roof. They're having grenade attacks like every other day in major Swedish cities. But cars are being burned. They've got riots. But don't worry about that. A guy made an offensive Facebook post back in September, and they've caught him. They've got him. What did he say? He said, quote, only every 5th Somali has an IQ over 70. Oh, my God. Just throw away the key. Throw away the key. According to prosecutor Paulina Brandberg, the post targets a protected group of people based on their national origin and is therefore hate speech. But is it true? Yes, it's true. According to British professor Richard Lynn and his Finnish colleague Tatu Vahanen, who published a book called IQ and the Wealth of Nations, which made a correlation between IQ rates and economic prosperity, the defendant is technically correct, since the average IQ in Somalia is, wait for it, 70. In fact, he was being kind to them in some ways, because if you go on the IQ research website, which lists all the average IQs by country, and I suppose that'll get shut down. It'll probably get blocked in Sweden. It says that the average IQ in Somalia is 68. Now, this Facebook post made no argument as to whether IQs are determined on socioeconomic status, environment, upbringing, race. Didn't even speculate on that. He merely pointed out the fact that the average IQ in Somalia is 70. In fact, he complimented them to some extent, given that it's probably closer to 68. Now he faces 2 years in prison. I mean, if that's such a horrible thing to say, even though it's statistically true, shut him down with facts. Have a debate, you know. No, they've literally got taxpayer-funded groups going out hunting thought criminals and arresting people, interrogating them. The case is yet another example of what is now being referred to as hate facts, statements that are generally true, yet are negative towards minorities or other ethnic groups. And another case that I cite in this article, which we've talked about before, is a 55-year-old Swedish man who was put on trial and fined $1,200 for committing, quote, a crime of opinion. Even though it wasn't an opinion, it was a statement of fact. He posted on Facebook that Muslims account for a lot of gang crime in Sweden and other stuff like rapes. Now, again, in the previous segment, I just read out a bunch of private studies, a bunch of government figures, a study by a Swedish newspaper, not a right-wing news outlet, that proved gang rape, violent assault is predominantly the domain of Muslim migrants in Sweden. They're way overrepresented in violent crime rates and in sexual assault. That is a fact. He said it on Facebook, and he got interrogated and fined $1,200. The guy who said the average IQ in Somalia is 70 faces 2 years, up to 2 years in prison. Absolutely incredible situation. This is what a country looks like that's basically committed suicide on the altar of diversity. Now, it's this whole new wave, which I've talked about before, hate facts, where you can literally state facts, but because they're about a certain protected class of people, they're deemed to be hate speech, even though they're true. Now, Tommy Robinson was suspended on Twitter back in February for tweeting, quote, 90% of grooming gang convictions are Muslims. Now, Majid Nawaz, who is a Muslim reformist, got on Twitter and said about Robinson, quote, he's quoting a fact. He broke it down, and I think it was about 86% of culprits in these grooming gangs that have been caught across the country are Muslims. They're predominantly Bangladeshi and Pakistani. It's a fact. Okay, if you don't acknowledge basic facts, how are we going to combat these problems if you turn acknowledging basic facts into hate crimes, where people are so afraid of even talking about it on the internet? How are we ever going to resolve any of this? And you only drive it further underground anyway and make it the domain of actual extremists. It's completely absurd. So we've got Swedish journalists being arrested, not being arrested, but at least being charged, interrogated for drawing cartoons which make fun of Islam. We've got women being told not to go out late at night because they might get raped. We've got people talking about Somali IQs on Facebook being prosecuted, facing up to 2 years in jail. Meanwhile, Reuters reports Swedish girls fearing forced marriage told to hide spoon in underwear. So they got such a big problem now with Muslim migrants trying to secret Swedish girls out of the country to have female genital mutilation operations in other countries and to force them into forced marriage, that now authorities are telling victims of this, which are predominantly, of course, going to be little Muslim girls, to put spoons in their underwear so they set off the X-ray metal detector scanners at the airports and they have a final opportunity to sound the alarm and talk to the authorities and escape basically being shipped abroad to have their genitals mutilated. These are the real problems we have in countries like Sweden. But no, some guy drew an offensive cartoon about Muslims. Let's concentrate on him. And in fact, when you look at the funding behind how they fund the different aspects of policing, it's all going towards hate crimes. It's going to patrolling online tweets. It's the same situation in London, and it's absolutely absurd. Meanwhile, in the Netherlands, 1,400 underage Dutch girls forced into sex slavery each year by migrant background males. Again, same situation that we had in the UK. This is their culture, and some cultures are better than others. And if we don't focus on this, if we don't actually acknowledge it and allow people to talk about it, it's going to continue. It's going to get even worse. Germany will now train asylum seekers to become truck drivers. What could possibly go wrong with that? In London, 4 young men stabbed in Mayor Sadiq Khan's London in 5 days. More stabbings, but he's pledged some money for knife crime projects, which is infinitesimal in comparison to the money he's pledged to patrol online hate crime. Absolutely absurd, ludicrous. That's going to wrap it up. War Room with Owen Schroyer is coming up next. Infowars.com. We'll be back.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance.
InfoWars comes to mind.
Alex Jones.
Alex Jones. Alex Jones.
There's a lot of controversy around this network about Alex Jones.
Google is being accused of hiding negative stories about Hillary and her campaign by changing its algorithm to bury stories like the Clinton body count story. That's according to website InfoWars.
It sounds like it's confirmed there are at least 2 shooters with fully automatic weapons.
Dr. Martin Luther King has been shot to death in Memphis, Tennessee.
JFK was shot from the back and the front.
It was almost as if it were a planned implosion. It just pancaked.
They took the babies out of incubators and left the children to die on the cold floor.
I think this is a national security imperative. We have clear things that we do not understand how they work, operating in areas that we can't control.
UFOs. Is this global governance at last? Is it one world? The central bankers in charge.
Israel claims the attack was accidental, but some former U.S. naval officers say it was on purpose. They describe the day's action as part of a continuing cover-up.
Russian intelligence compiled a dossier on Mr. Trump during visits to Moscow.
Russian scum!
Denied everything. He called it all fake news. And he accused CNN of being fake news.
This is a national emergency.
If they kill Trump or remove Trump, it will cause a massive civil war in this country.
This is a high-level alert.
We are at war with Russia.
Are you aware that Mr. Stone also stated publicly that he was in direct communication with Julian Assange and WikiLeaks?
The White House and the president are citing InfoWars.
If they could shut us down, you're next.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance. It's Alex Jones.
It was early on in the Revolutionary War when the U.S. Navy had less than 10 major surface ships that John Paul Jones, the father of the U.S. Navy, while engaging a British ship 3 times the size of his, said, "I've only begun to fight." And that's when the ship was sinking and was on fire. But he didn't give up. And he won. That's part of the ethos of this country. But not everybody is brought right to the wall and given victory. The Alamo stood and fought victory or death, Colonel Travis. And they all died, all 180 plus men. But the seed of that example led to the victory that came. So I don't know how InfoWars fight is going to end. But I know this. Faced with the same challenges that John Paul Jones and Colonel Travis faced, with this country under attack by foreign evil forces, hell-bent on enslaving us, destroying the promise of the Renaissance, I will quote Colonel Travis 110% and hope that I can man up to be in his shoes and say victory or death. Let me tell you something. I get tears in my eyes when I think about that because I love America. It's not fear that makes me get tears in my eyes. It's will and strength boiling to defeat these tyrants and these globalists. But that said, just like our information is game-changing, the products that we sell, all of them, are powerful. And whether it's colloidal silver from 1995, the very best out there, same stuff they sell at Whole Foods for $5 less, or whether it's DNA Force that's now back in stock, PQQ, CoQ10, and the other key elements that are in this product would cost $300, $400 if you put it all separately in little bottles. They sell PQQ in little bottles with a third the dose we put in this, each caplet, each powdered capsule, and it is, again, the third as much, and it's like $40, $50 for a little bottle. Think about that. It's $74 right now. It's our flagship, most expensive product because these compounds are expensive to get and to have organic. And that's how we fund our operation. So I can't read you the thousands of reviews of the old DNA Force or Cell Force that were similar formulas, but this is even stronger and lower price. So I signed a bigger contract, got a better deal. We've invested out for the year and believe you're going to want lower price on this and get the best product. So I've not gambled. I know you want value. So we've bought even more of it. We're signed up every month to get thousands of bottles of it. And we've got it right now at the lowest price of this formula and this combination you're going to find anywhere. DNA Force, go read the 5-star reviews, thousands of them. Go see what people said it did for them. It is dramatic. It would take hours to get into all the studies and the facts and the information about what Mother Nature, through God, we were given. The PQQ, the CoQ10, and then all the other concentrated organic herbs and things that go into this so your body can actually upload it. DNA Force Plus telomere support, now available at InfoWarsStore.com, or you can call 888-253-3139. Every other major conservative website or talk show host is funded by the Mercers or some other billionaire family. And that's fine. I'm not funded by any of that. I'm funded by you. So thank you all, and please continue to support us, because without you, we will fall to Soros and Hillary. But I know in my gut we're going to win this one way or the other.